This young man is the second son of Viscount Lauren, a transmigrator carrying memories from his previous life, a life where he served in the military before opening his eyes no longer in South Korea. He had been transported to a place called the Renhant Kingdom, transforming from Kim Minzy into Adrian Lauren. From an ordinary middle-class person, he began his new life as the second son of a Viscount's family owners of a grand mansion. While children his age were playing without a care, he was obsessed with studying earlier than everyone else. He successfully earned recognition from those around him and fulfilled his father's wishes at the same time. However, life has a way of being cruel. If you're rich, they hate you. If you're poor, they despise you. If you're smart, they find ways to destroy you. Someone tried to poison him, and the mastermind was painfully obvious: Anna Lauren, the head wife of the Lauren family. This is a continuation of the previous thought. Being someone of commoner blood and not her own biological child, like he was yet winning his father's attention, really made him a thorn in her side. From that moment on, Adrian decided to hide his true talents. Time flew by like a wild dog running through a field. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. Adrian was now 20, incredibly handsome, with his hair perfectly styled. His appearance at the convenience store caused the staff to whisper and gossip. He came there to buy Chronico Online points cards. Just as he stepped out of the store, his attendants announced that young Master Cedric was coming to visit his place, making Adrian's expression darken. As soon as he returned home, Adrian was scolded by Cedric, a torrent of words pouring down on him. "Adrian, you're wandering around the mansion again. Without using a carriage, have you lost your mind? You should know your place as a noble son." Adrian found it all extremely grating. "Noble honor, my foot. Cedric spends all his time fooling around with women. If it weren't for leaning on his noble family, he couldn't even take care of himself, let alone go around talking trash." Adrian thought to himself that arguing now would just be a waste of time, so he decided to just endure him. Cedric smirked, mocking him, and cleared his throat to remind him that it seemed their father was planning to hand over the family business to him. With that joyful look on his face now, he knew why this guy had stormed over here. Because he was a greedy, talentless jerk. Adrian shrugged, thinking, okay, have it your way. He would decline the inheritance just as the jerk wanted. Cedric, having achieved his goal, laughed triumphantly, ear to ear. Seeing Adrian bring home so many game cards made him very satisfied with Adrian's uselessness. "That's right. That's all you should be doing." Cedric sneered and walked straight off. After the failed poisoning attempt, Adrian had given up on cultivating his genius image. He isolated himself by minimizing interactions with relatives, perhaps because his father had no interest in an illegitimate child who wasn't a genius like him. He grew increasingly cold, but thanks to that, Adrian didn't encounter such dangers anymore, and so he lived 10 years with a faint presence. Right after graduating from the academy, he left the palace with his mother. Most of the servants here were under the command of the head wife Anna, so Adrian didn't dare to speak out of line. But the truth was, it wasn't that he was focused on the game to escape reality. In this virtual world, Adrian had long since completed the first floor of the Destiny quest. The skills he gained would also be accumulated, to gradually reflect in reality. December 29th, 1999, the century of magic. Before the dawn of a new century, the wish of a great archmage was revealed, and the world seemed turned upside down. The mage who left behind that wish, the one who stirred the whole world, was a pioneer who led Rondell into the golden age of magic. And he was also a Grand Duke who revived an entire empire, Manuel Lucas. And so those who wanted to obtain the destiny of Archmage Lucas set out. Countless rumors regarding that began to spread. The dungeon of Lucas lay in the barren lands where the dragon race reigned. The treasures of Lucas were hidden, deep within the Elysia League, famous for being a heavenly place. The city in the clouds belonging to Lucas was located at the Storm Sea, the center of the world. Regardless of differences in nationality, species, or social class, everyone stepped foot into it to search for the destiny of Grand Duke Manuel Lucas. But rumors are just rumors. No one had found the destiny anywhere despite the countless people who had entered the investigation, but no one could find a single clue. And so 20 years had passed. Only our handsome, cool protagonist had obtained the destiny of Manuel Lucas 10 years before Adrian joined the Royal Academy. In a research paper about Manuel Lucas, he discovered something unexpected. The Lucas family crest, no matter which way he looked at it, he only saw English letters. But how could English exist in this world? Adrian could not deny the fact that Lucas also came from Earth. By recording his final words, Adrian utilized his knowledge of Earth from his past life to search for the destiny he left behind. And finally, the fruits of his labor blossomed. He successfully collected the destiny of Manuel Lucas. He thought life would bloom from then on, but he never expected the real suffering was only just beginning. The destiny of Archmage Lucas was hidden in a place no one expected on the internet. Or in other words, it was hidden in a virtual world created as meticulously as reality itself. He was immersed in a life-or-death battle that, if told, surely no one would believe. After the decisive sword strike, Adrian leveled up to level 10. He completed the first gate of the Destiny quest, and because of that, he was transported by the Lord God Ariel to a secret space to create his character. Do you want to climb to the second floor in the magic tower of Manuel Lucas? The system gently and affectionately asked. Adrian, of course, wanted to. As soon as he finished speaking, a brilliant beam of light shone down. The hazy space gradually revealed a room full of books, unlike the first floor, which had nothing. The bookshelves here were filled with books. Is that a treasure chest? Adrian stared intensely at the glowing gold chest in front of him. A true reward had appeared for him. A magic circle quickly converged its power and then established itself inside Adrian's body. Previously, I thought MP expressed by HP only showed mana, but I had never felt the presence of mana in reality, Adrian thought to himself. After the magic circle was established, he could now feel the mana flowing in his chest. This process, which was not easy at all, had been established. Following the system's instructions, Adrian could even look up books, being able to enjoy the legacy of the great Mage Manual. Lucas like this, it was definitely worth it. Saying that is one thing, but it really wasn't easy at all. The process of carving the principles from these books into his head made Adrian's head ache like he was being hit with a hammer. Luckily, he had finally reached the last book, The Hidden Magic Circle. This is exactly the skill I need most. It seems they understand my situation perfectly. Adrian happily collects it, feeling completely exhausted after such a long process. Collapsing onto the ground with a sigh, Adrian just wants his mother and himself to live a comfortable, peaceful life. He will do anything for that wish. The next day at the mansion's training grounds, Adrian and his bodyguard Vice are practicing swordsmanship together, dripping with sweat. He feels that if he trains like this in reality, it will also be useful in the game. Setting that aside, Adrian has truly sensed his mana circle and his stamina has improved. Thankfully, I can hide my magic circle from the knights who are very sensitive to mana, and the skill I learned at Lucas's tower. Adrian chuckles to himself. The crowd around them, except for Vice, sees his puzzled expression and starts whispering. They think he's truly addicted to the game. Adrian is very grateful to Vice for being outraged on his behalf, but the truth is he was just playing the fool to let it slide. He knows he must look pathetic to deceive Anna and Cedric. Currently acting like a good-for-nothing whom no one cares about is the most advantageous situation for him. Returning to Chronico Online, the things that help him get more unique abilities and money are spending to compensate for his weak stamina. He needs a brutal teammate to help him level up. Leveling up costs XP points, but if playing in a team, it's not a waste. Adrian decides to choose the highest-ranking warrior as his right-hand person. He has nothing but good looks and lots of money. After scrolling back and forth for a while, Adrian decides to choose Erika, the Iron Wall, with the highest level in the unique category. Thanks to her in today's battle, he has easily leveled up to 20. After 15 grueling hours, he logs out ready to rest. Unexpectedly, even though the game has been shut down, Erika is still standing there motionless, right next to Adrian's bed. It makes him scream in shock. Adrian's face turns as pale as tofu. "Who are you?" "I am your support master," Erika replies. "I know that much you." He wants to know how she was able to come out of the game. "I understand. You must be curious how I maintained my form in reality. I am an artificial human. A robot in human form. My creator is Master Manuel Lucas. According to the Master's established settings, my appearance and combat attributes are those of Erika the Iron Wall, she informs him. In other words, she is Lucas's legacy. Damn it, if I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have chosen a tankless support. I would have chosen a more versatile character. Adrian nervously clutches his head, but hearing that her stats are still exactly the same as in the game, a Grandmaster. Adrian immediately snaps to attention. A Grandmaster is on the same level as an 8-circle mage, and can rival the strongest people on the continent. Even in the Reinhardt Kingdom, the highest-ranking mage is only level 7. There are only 8 level 8 mages in the entire world. Manuel Lucas created a monster at this level. He anxiously wonders, but regardless, having a reliable transcendent ally who always follows his commands, isn't that awesome? The problem is, how is he supposed to hide her? Luckily, Erika's profession has a mana hiding function just like Adrian's. Because of that, the knights won't be able to detect her. With no other choice, Adrian is in too deep to turn back. Since then, rumors about young Master Adrian publicly bringing a woman to the mansion spread like wildfire. Whispers and gossip surround them both. Although doing this is a bit inconvenient, in return Adrian's level can smoothly skyrocket like the wind. Erika, when you connect to the game, what happens to your real body? Please ask my body switches to power saving mode, so you can consider it as me getting some rest. But my monitoring function still works to protect you, Master, she says with an unchanging expression. Saying that means if there is any problem outside, she can immediately notify him. Just as he finished speaking, the aura of the Beast Warrior, Ogun, surged forth. The second stage of the Destiny quest has officially begun. The system does not allow Adrian to use consumable attack items like bombs or scrolls. He and Erika charge in to attack that fat, fierce beast head-on. She defends while he coordinates the attacks. Before long, he uses a magic missile, making the beast's nose bleed. Thanks to using all high-end equipment, the magic power of the missile has exceeded the first magic circle. If the monster is also at this level, I could easily take it out in one hit. Adrian sneers. Bam! Thankfully, Erika helped him block a hit, or else Adrian would have been smashed to pieces under the beast's sword. Although it was injured, its HP is still ridiculously high. Being this tanky is just unreal. It only needs to hit him once and it's game over. Luckily, Erika is with him, although it would be a lie to say he isn't worried when an enemy targets him with such strength. But I've already died, once Adrian thinks, while swinging his arm to cast a ground-shaking spell, causing the beast to stumble. At this level, don't let fear shake your judgment. Erika, while I attack, don't give it a chance to get up, he yells, telling her to defend, while he lands consecutive blows without stopping. Who would have thought this monster would still hold on until the end? A legendary survivor who refuses to give up. Adrian, face as cold as ice, uses his finger to shoot a magic missile. At this moment, it finally goes to meet its ancestors, successfully helping Adrian unlock the 3rd floor of Manuel Lucas's magic tower. At the same time, in the study of Viscount Lauren, Adrian's father, Rayford is staring out the window deep in thought. The order to mobilize local forces has been issued. His stepmother Anna fears that her son Cedric will be sent away, so she throws mud at Adrian. Rayford had long realized Anna's mindset as well, as her malicious schemes against Adrian. As she said, "This time I will send Adrian to the battlefield, but when the boy returns, I will make him live independently. I hope Adrian's future and Sylvia's will not encounter danger or any secret surveillance or investigations anymore. Stop it, and leave Adrian to be free. Adrian is currently practicing swordsmanship with Vice. The reason he can progress this quickly is thanks to his level reaching 20, as well as clearing the 2nd phase of the Destiny quest. The rewards from the Destiny quest bring a lot of money and create a 2nd magic circle. He also has a subspace to hide necessary equipment. Based on his current efforts, he can become a mage who still possesses physical abilities rivaling a knight. If I can absorb the stats gained from Destiny, I might even become a monster more terrifying than the Archmage Lucas." Adrian clenched his fists. Just then, an aide approached to inform him that the Viscount had summoned him to the Lauren estate. Adrian stood silently to the side, watching Cedric shout at his father. "Why should he represent our family on the battlefield?" Cedric barked. "I am the only heir to this house. I cannot let you face such danger, son," the Viscount replied. He then added that Andrian's worth was different from the heir's, which truly struck a nerve with Andrian. The more he heard, the more annoyed he became. But he realized this wasn't all bad. Anyone with hack gear could enter the game, and since he was the one replacing the heir, no one could interfere with his business. More importantly, once he got out of there, he would be free from Anna's watchful eyes. "I understand, Father. I will participate as the representative of this family," Andrian spoke up. "I'm not saying anything because this is your decision, Father, but I won't sit idly by if that idiot drags our family name through the mud." Cedric, being a foul-mouthed brat, immediately snapped back. Andrian really couldn't find the words to respond to that block-headed old man. Suddenly, the Viscount asked for a private word. He quietly let him know, "If everything goes well, I will take you and Sylvia to the king's territory. Consider this a reward for taking Cedric's place. You'll finally be able to do whatever you want, without anyone bothering you." Andrian was deeply confused by this. Anna hated it when he wasn't under her surveillance. Why would she allow this to happen? "I want to survive the war first, then I'll think about that," he said. The Viscount pulled a grade 5 auto shield item and a grade 7 great shield from his pocket. "These will help you on the battlefield, since you can't use teleportation." While talking to his father, Cedric and his mother were lurking outside the door, glaring at him with pure malice. He remembered the time someone poisoned him when he was 7. His father's reaction had been deeply disappointing, and he would disappoint him many more times later. But he was surrounded by enemies, and the only person he could somewhat trust right now was his father. That night, the Viscount was trembling from a migraine. "That kid, I know that ever since he was poisoned. He's always had to wear that mask of resignation." He painfully blamed himself. As for Andrian's mother, she was heartbroken when she heard he was being sent to the front lines. He promised his mother he would return safely, and that everything would be all right. 2 days after the Lauren army mobilized, the vassals were whispering about Andrian bringing Arika along. "They can yap all they want, I can't leave her behind. She'd risk her life to save me if something went wrong, especially since she's leveled up so much lately. Her stats are almost on par with an official knight," he told himself. "The first thing to prepare before battle is improving yourself to survive." Andrian had spent 200 million in 2 days in-game to reach level 3, Resonance Luck. The rewards for level 3 were worth 100 billion each, and now level 4 was waiting for him. During a briefing, Andrian suddenly cut in asking to go play his game. This reckless behavior left the soldiers speechless. Among them, Dantine, the vanguard leader, looked at him with a haughty, confused stare. "Your reputation is already garbage, and now you're bringing that girl to the battlefield. And you still want to play games," he spat. This out-of-line remark was immediately cut off by Billiam, the deputy knight commander. Andrian was used to this, so he didn't feel a thing. He turned his back and walked straight to his room. After a while, he finished off the monster in the game, and Andrian received a very expensive Tears of the Outsider item. He had reached level 80. The Godmaster Ariel brought him to the secret chamber for his Tier 4 promotion quest. He needed to defeat a rank 4 half-lich. Before reaching the Western Plaza, the half-lich was a tough monster, but this one looked a bit stupid and slow. It swung its staff using a petrification spell to freeze them both right before the fight started. A bolt of force shot out. Fearing Arika wouldn't dodge in time, Andrian lunged to take the hit for her. The demon laughed mockingly. The pain hit him mingled with its grating cackle. Its laughter made him lose his focus. It sounded exactly like Dumbledore. As Andrian forced himself to stand up, it unleashed a fireball that exploded in a cloud of smoke. He and Arika quickly teamed up using a recovery beam to counterattack. The best way to fight a demon without a cleric is to just keep hammering it with spells until it comes to its senses. Take that firewall and this spell. Andrian used all his might to land the decisive blow, sending the demon back to its maker. He had completed the level 4 Resonance Luck quest. Right as the battle ended, a wave of pain hit him, causing Andrian to collapse. Fortunately, Arika gave him a grade 5 painkiller from the Manuel Lucas Tower. They excitedly opened the treasure chest. Inside was a pair of glasses capable of analysis, observation price appraisal, and vision enhancement. "I can see who's an ally and who's an enemy with this. A useful item for an overthinker like me," he thought to himself. At the Western headquarters, the high-ranking officers were gossiping about Andrian, not Cedric being the one sent to lead the troops. "Yeah, just like the rumors said that moron kid is here," one shouted out loud. One was Evan, the office manager, and the other was Miller, the deputy office manager. They were battle-hardened warriors. Only mages of the 7th Circle and above could handle them. The lower-ranking soldiers were just cannon fodder. Sadly, everything said about the Vanguard was true. The Lauren Army would be the 2nd Independent Combat Unit under the command of Unit 3. "Remember to report to the combat commander, Count Otis," Evan said. Andrian guessed Count Otis was a good lord from the east. He hoped he was easygoing. After finishing the roll call, he and the soldiers set out. A week later, Commander Otis was indeed easygoing, just as Andrian expected. So easygoing that he wasn't even there, even though war could break out at any moment. His actions were irrational and irresponsible, but they worked in Andrian's favor as he liked doing things his own way. While he was in the game, someone burst into the room, interrupting him and Erika. It was Dantine in a heated, aggressive state, trying to lay hands on her. He immediately took a kick to the leg. "You enter the room of the Golden Fist Brigade's commander and the Lord without permission. Are you trying to assassinate me?" Andrian shouted furiously. He still insisted on arguing, which made Andrian lose his cool and kick him again. Erika revealed he was trying to drag her away from him. Struck in the heart of the matter, Dantine screamed in humiliation, causing a scene. Human patience has its limits. Andrian's submissiveness before wasn't because he was a good person, but because he wanted to live in peace. Anna couldn't control him anymore. That meant he had no reason to yield to anyone else. Andrian smirked and drew his sword, pointing it straight at Dantine's stomach, before the horrified eyes of the vassals. The news that Andrian would execute Danton was handed over to Billiam. He remained calm as if nothing had happened. His strong hands gripped the bloody blade Andrian had thrown. Kneeling on the ground was Danton, clutching his stomach. Whining pathetically, "May I ask what this situation is about?" he asked Andrian. Upon learning of Dan's intention to harass Erika, his face turned pale and he lowered his head. "I'm sorry. I promised to strip Dan of his position and throw him in jail along with his 3 accomplices." Andrian coldly left the room, leaving a bloody mess behind him. William realized he wasn't someone to be pushed around, so he smirked with an evil glint in his eyes. Afterward, Andrian and Erika immersed themselves in a battle to level up their mission. The level 5 Encounter of Destiny was unlocked, requiring them to defeat the corrupted Knight Zenith. This knight, covered from head to toe in demonic energy, was no small fry, but regardless of his type, he was just a tool for Andrian and Erika to join forces and defeat to upgrade themselves. Once he was taken care of, the 6th floor of the Manuel Lucas Tower was unlocked. Inside the chest this time, it was the Estro gear and a cloak for Andrian. As for Erika's share, it's better to have more equipment. Duke Lucas wouldn't just give out ordinary weapons anymore, he thought to himself when suddenly someone burst into the room, making his heart jump. Returning to the system just as Andrian predicted, the Estro sword. Destined for him was a sword, typically used by the Vanguard. Anyone can temporarily harness the power of the Vanguard if it is fully charged with aura. Like a battery, this Vanguard gear is used to amplify a knight's aura, unlike mana. Aura cannot be generated on its own. Being so top-tier, Andrian now understands why everyone wants to possess the destiny of Duke Lucas. 2 weeks have passed since he was appointed as the representative for the Lauren family, leading the army to the front lines against the Crocian Empire. The tension, as if war could break out at any moment, seemed to have ended. Strangely, the Vice Captain Williams' attitude toward him had shifted to being friendly. Meanwhile, Erika had shifted to a state of happiness, which left him a bit confused. He still didn't know much about her, and her personality was quite timid. She had never truly shown it, he mused to himself. Upon returning, Andrian was sheepishly asked by Lopez if he wanted anything to drink. One look was all it took for him to know that the boy had come to see him under orders from a superior. He flatly refused. Before leaving, he wanted to know why he chose to become a knight. This was the first time he had seen someone with more than 2 high-level talents beyond just being a dwarf. He had a high aptitude for mana and rare traits. Why would he settle for being a clown for other knights? He thought. Just a passing thought, though he didn't dwell on it too much. If he became a mage instead, He could be so much more successful. Andrian spoke up, making Lopez jump and break into a cold sweat. Back in his room, Andrian kept thinking about Lopez's wasted talent. If he could use magic through Vanguard equipment, he could become a magic swordsman. If I could get him on my side, that would be amazing, he thought with frustration. The problem was Count Otis. Alan was a knight under another count, so he needed his permission to take Lopez. I don't know how useful that high-level talent is, but I need to start building my own force to prepare for anything that might happen, and now is the time to do it. Because he had finally escaped the family's control, Andrian smiled to himself, thinking he knew what to do next. Lopez, meanwhile, was also lost in thought about what Andrian had said. At first, I thought he was just another arrogant noble, but he actually thinks I should be a mage, and not a knight. I've thought about that too. I'm a bit shocked, he thought, distracted. Walking and pondering, Lopez arrived at the door summoned by Commander Otis, and who was sitting there having tea with him? None other than Andrian. Lopez was bewildered, not knowing why he had been called. Commander Otis noticed the confusion on Lopez's face and didn't beat around the bush, ordering him to serve Andrian from now on. This made Lopez freeze like a statue, thinking he had misheard. In a past life, when China lost to South Korea in a soccer match, a fan asked a question. China has a population of about 1.4 billion people, so why can't they but find 11 good players? The answer was, because the Chinese Messi or Chinese Ronaldo is busy shoveling dirt on a farm somewhere. No matter how much potential someone has, if no one discovers their talent, it's useless. That was Andrian's motto. He didn't expect so many people to be on the wrong path like Lopez's situation. They all had amazing talent, but these geniuses had chosen the wrong path and achieved nothing in life. He felt a bit heartbroken as he thought so. He had selected core personnel with high aura stats to help them escape their misguided paths, like Linda, the maid, Barbara, the digger, and countless others. In front of Andrian, they were quickly taken to a high-end royal fashion shop to pick out new outfits. These abilities can be more useful and rarer than magic or swordsmanship, he calculated. Even if they are talented without education, it's all for nothing. They would start training outside the military base and receive private education. What they wore needed to be suitable for the new environment, not just clothes, but gear as well. Leaving the shop in their brand new outfits, the group almost fainted again when they found out they would be staying in the towering mansion ahead. A butler and servants had already been hired, and from now on, the only thing everyone needed to focus on was their studies. Besides tuition, I will pay you all in advance right now. The monthly salary is 200 million loot. Annual salary is 240 million loot. Everyone's contract will be the same, Andrian said. Favored and trusted like that, they all swore in unison to do their best. Andrian was extremely pleased with this enthusiasm. From now on, this place would be filled with those he had recruited. His job was to turn this place into a place where talents could shine. It looks like I'm wasting money, but this is an investment to secure quality human resources. A few days ago, I don't know if anyone knew about me gathering these people, but Cedric had called him directly and said he needed to mingle with people like himself. This made Andrian a bit worried about his and his mother's safety. And sure enough, just today, Erica had caught the Major General on his way to stalk him. It seemed he had teleported from the royal palace without anyone knowing. He trembled in fear under Erika's grip and spilled everything. So you found where I live by using some of Cedric's spies? At the teleportation office, right? Andrian asked, pressing his cold blade against the man's neck, making him shiver. He decided to threaten him by hitting where it hurt the most. He only listens to Cedric and holds no grudge against you, so you should stand on our side. It won't be difficult. You just need to update me with information daily. Just keep reporting back to him that I am working as usual and report anything unusual to me. This threat-filled request left him with no choice but to agree in agony. At the Lorne mansion that evening, Cedric was furious to hear that Mess had been thrown into prison for being a spy. This happened because he ignored his father's orders and didn't investigate. Adrian, I got scolded by father, he thought to himself, clutching his head. Having started this, he had to see it through. He continued to order Bertold to replace Mess and keep a close watch on Adrian. Who would have guessed? Bertold was updating the situation to him under Adrian's remote guidance. His remaining spies had all been punished and thrown into prison. Regarding gathering talented people, Adrian had successfully gathered 20 people with special innate talents. Eric and Elisa, the former managers of the Allied Forces and Half-Demons, will manage the Talent Academy without any obstacles. Everyone is working hard, so he can't just sit still either. During training, a sudden incident occurred. Someone reported that the Croissant Empire's troops had crossed the border. This made Adrian full of worry and surprise. The conference room was packed before the emergency meeting. Once the local forces are ordered to be ready, get my unit onto the airship so they can resolve this quickly when the opportunity arises. For the most part, their resting and eating will also take place on the command ship, Otis said with a stern face. If he isn't here, Adrian must plan without a commander. Fortunately, the Croissant Empire attacked during the day. From now on, I forbid personal communication between units except for those with the rank of colonel or higher. Use the radio to communicate. Adrian is no exception, Otis warned him directly. The meeting ended with everyone in a state of heightened vigilance. The war had officially broken out. Adrian and Erika, after a period of fighting, had reached the 6th magic circle. The system granted him a supersonic Black Eagle assistant. The sudden appearance of the Eagle caught Adrian a bit off guard. The scene immediately shifted back to the real world. I thought a large Black Eagle appearing like Erika did before would cause chaos. He stepped outside, looking around, waiting for the bird to appear, and just as he predicted, from afar a giant bird swooped in with wings tearing through the wind, leaving everyone wide-eyed. Adrian stared at it without blinking. It only has one skill similar to how Erika became stronger along with me. I need to know how and the conditions to get new skills for it. Perhaps that condition is solving a mission related to it. He stroked its head while whispering to himself. Too focused on the Black Eagle, he almost forgot about the people around him, gathering and gossiping about the appearance of this strange bird. Adrian finally reached out his hand and asked it to come with him. Both man and bird acted out a sentimental clinging scene, which really made those watching feel a little nauseous. After the war began, the battle did not take place on a small scale, but expanded to the entire western border. Thanks to that, Adrian's brigade had its debut. A platoon of Croissant Imperial soldiers was advancing. The panicked soldier ran in to inform Adrian. "Don't panic, fall back and prepare the formation. Tell our troops to focus on driving the Venga soldiers into the trap," he calmly and coolly ordered. This composed demeanor was actually a bit irritating. Then, through his clairvoyant glasses, Adrian was startled to realize the vanguards were preparing to attack 2nd Battalion. Deploy energy shields, Adrian shouted. The shield was quickly erected, but was still punched through with a massive amount of damage. This probably isn't just a promotion test like Adrian thought. He started to break into a sweat, his heart pounding non-stop. The energy shield in the 2nd Battalion's sector was gone. I don't need to envy the Vengas. If I reach the highest level in the game, I will unlock the 9th magic circle, and I still have Erika here as support. He tried to reassure himself. Luckily for his team, he had given instructions just in time. Otherwise, by this time next year, the whole group commander and soldiers alike would be pushing up daisies. After observing on the screen, Adrian realized the scale of the attacking force wasn't much different from his. The problem was their long-range artillery force. The Croissant Empire has 2 fortresses, one in the air, but theirs are much smaller than his. It seems this is the first time they have deployed those cannons in battle. There are Vanguard troops on the ground and fortified fortresses in the sky. On the ground, our troops have the advantage, and it seems the variables are up above. Adrian watched the battle, which was becoming more intense by the moment. While fighting fiercely suddenly, their weapons automatically broke into pieces, raining down like a downpour. Amidst the jeering laughter of the surrounding soldiers, who thought the opponent was malfunctioning, Adrian turned pale. He realized in horror that they were planning to execute a heaven-shaking suicide attack. An explosion echoed, followed by a violent eruption. News of the air fortress being attacked spread throughout the system room. Pushed to the brink, everyone used handheld guns to fire continuously in an attempt to save the situation. At the very moment it was about to explode, Adrian waved his hand and shouted, "Prepare for massive defense!" An explosion resounded to the heavens once more. Such a large shockwave made his head feel like it was going to explode. The air fortress luckily didn't collide because it retreated in time. If the Allied air fortress were destroyed, the enemy's remaining fortress forces would slaughter them, he thought to himself. Adrian's efforts today made Commander Otis extremely satisfied. The suicide bomb went off in 3 other battlefields at the same time, but only his unit recognized the abnormality and successfully protected the fortress. He chuckled, promising to reward him worthily. While many people like to steal credit from their subordinates, Count Otis is surprisingly fair, he thought Mungtom. Through Otis's words, Adrian knew he had some strange rumors about taming a giant bird. He could only remain silent, smiling feignedly to let it pass. I don't know much about communication, but it is very smart and can understand what I say. I just take care of it because I find it interesting. Luckily, Archmage Lucas created it based on a real one. If he had given me a flashy one, everyone would keep asking me what it is. At that point, I'm afraid it would be hard to control. Now that the enemy has retreated, Otis allowed Adrian to use personal transportation again, making his mouth unable to close from joy. Finally, he can access Chronico online again, 2 weeks after the war. William led a platoon down the mountain to fight. Thanks to Adrian's guidance about the traps, everyone luckily didn't suffer any casualties, just retreating and defending like that. Although avoiding casualties, the battle situation was not very good, because they had to wait for reinforcements. He feared it would take at least 5 minutes for the reinforcements to arrive. Suddenly, at this critical moment, 10 vanguard troops ordered by Adrian arrived quickly. Surprisingly, William did not. I didn't expect you to foresee this and request reinforcements in time. Thanks to Adrian's command, the 5 vanguard enemy divisions have been completely wiped out. Not only did you predict the surprise attack, you turned a crisis into an opportunity. While other units were struggling, Adrian's unit kept racking up victories. At first, I thought it was just coincidence, but if things keep going like this, it definitely isn't. Didn't they say the prodigy of the Viscount Lorne family had become a fool after nearly dying from poison? He is a sleeping dragon who has been hiding his strength all this time, Otis thought skeptically. Just as he was planning to set him up with his hot-tempered daughter, Meeson Andrian was currently preparing for battle with Arika. Brillium appeared behind him out of nowhere. Is there something you need to say? Why are you hiding your strength? You might not know this, but the vassals are very worried about the future of the territory. If Cedric becomes the lord, a crisis will surely follow. If you intend to compete with your brother, I will support you with all my might, he stated frankly. The magic glass in Andrian's hand showed no signs of fluctuation, proving he was telling the truth. He wondered if the man was saying this because he was ordered to, or simply because he was his benefactor. Thank you for those words, but I will pretend I heard nothing, Andrian replied. Before William's bewildered gaze, Andrian felt a bit amused by his naive recklessness. He knew that even if they tried to block Cedric's surveillance, he couldn't act rashly while surrounded by so many unknown monitoring systems. His current task was to eliminate the 2 thorns, Anna and Cedric. Thanks to his illustrious achievements, Andrian was honorably awarded the 2nd-class Order of the Golden Lion. He didn't expect his actions to be so highly regarded. The crowd around him was cheering loudly. Andrian thought to himself that Cedric must be going insane seeing this. And just as expected, he was currently losing his mind with jealousy over Andrian's achievements. Anna whispered sweet lies into Cedric's ear about how Andrian would completely sever ties with the family after returning from the war. He hoped things would go that way while briefly thinking of his grandfather. Who could back him up? The more he thought about how Andrian had been smart since childhood, the more Cedric gritted his teeth in a jealous rage. On the 48th day since the war broke out, Andrian had secretly given his soldiers diluted elixir to regain their strength. It was a bit of a waste for him, but it had to be done to end the war quickly. Just then, the division commander sent someone to find Andrian. Count Otis lately. You've been summoning me a bit too often, haven't you? Andrian said as he sat in his carriage returning. But even if he found it annoying to be summoned by a high noble every day, there was nothing he could do. Arriving at the destination, he realized all the high-ranking commanders in the division had already gathered. Does he have something important to announce but doesn't want to make it public? He thought. Otis's voice suddenly rang out, "Hello, my lovely family," making Andrian jump. "Enjoy it. You don't have to hear the sound of gunfire anymore. The end of the war will be announced soon. The foreign ministers of both countries are currently meeting. It seems from the start those croissant guys didn't intend to go all out. This war is large in scale, but in the end it's just another civil war. Nothing different from previous years," he cheerfully announced amidst the whispering. "Just like in my previous life, it's probably, whenever it comes to neighborly relations, our country gets unlucky. Subordinates always have to sacrifice themselves to serve the whims of those above," he thought somberly. "This game of war and fighting back and forth will just keep happening." Andrian slowly relaxed as he thought about the medal he had just been awarded. Instead of worrying about others, he should focus on his own future, because he would have to go home once the war ended. "I need to improve even more," he told himself. To Brillium, he felt this was a good thing because if their country and Croissant started an arms race, no one would know what would happen. There might be an unimaginable disaster. Before Brillium's flowery compliments aimed specifically at Andrian, he happily handed him some precious pastries. Of course, he had to be different from the average noble, because he used to be a commoner in his previous life. Now being here is just to reconnect with the game, he thought. William kept praising him endlessly, making Andrian realize right away that he was intentionally trying to bring up helping him become the heir. Suddenly, he knelt down at his feet. This credible demeanor made Andrian a bit flustered. "From now on, your humble servant William hopes to serve his master Andrian Lauren, the second young master of the Lauren family," he solemnly declared. Since that was the case, Andrian had no choice but to say, "Okay." However, on one condition, he must treat him as he normally would. Voluntarily following him, William had about 30 knights. The number didn't seem bad. William secretly informed him that Perseus was coming his way. He was a very worthy candidate to recruit. Perseus was initially the deputy commander of the Lauren cavalry. With superior skills, he had almost no rivals among aura masters. The only exception was the knight commander. The reason he retired was because he got entangled in the political struggle between families surrounding Anna. Sir Perseus was a typical warrior and a very straightforward knight. In other words, his strength still had room to grow. It should be enough to match the forces of Anna and Cedric, especially since this was a valuable talent outside his own family he could utilize. Andrian smirked. Following Andrian's order, William promised to arrange a secret meeting between him and Perseus. Andrian's top priority was not building power, but completing the mission. The next fated encounter, but he wouldn't always win. There were times he would be killed instantly by some dark force, for example. All this time, while trying to conquer the fated encounter and reach level 200, Andrian had never died once. In a game, fighting to the death was a perfectly normal thing. But in reality, if he died right now, the pain he would have to endure would be immense. The Death Knight Pascal was certainly no joke, as he had attacked Aurica and the Divine Bird in the blink of an eye. He was not only an aura master, but also known for his brutal enhancement effects and extraordinarily powerful body. In short, he was on a completely different level. Adrian returned to the real world after taking a sword to the heart that sent him to the afterlife. The system's cursed sensory-sharing feature hurt like hell, but he didn't dare scream since he was in public. Erica was sweating buckets, but holding on. He had recruited her without hesitation, because her stats were basically those of a tank. But the closer he got to her, the more ashamed he felt for having to hide behind that small body of hers. "I'll try to change my combat style so she doesn't have to suffer like I do," he thought, dazed and gloomy. A total stand-up guy, if I may say so myself, Adrian. This battle against the Death Knight showed him the limits of his team's fighting style. Aurica restricts enemy movement while Crowley blocks their vision to support her. He, on the other hand, held the main DPS role from the backline with magic. This worked well because of his gear advantage, but it was very limited when facing enemies like the Death Knight who could keep up with Aurica. The problem is, the cooldown between each attack is too long. His spellcasting time reduces the total damage output. If there was another source of damage that could support Aurica while he's casting their current combat style would actually work. Adrian thought until his head ached. Currently, he could only think of 3 solutions. One is to use low-level magic to reduce casting time and speed up his attacks. 2 is to use Crowley as an actual fighter instead of a stealth support. And 3, don't let Erika use just her shield, but equip her with a sword to deal damage too. The first solution would hold him back, so it's better to change things up with Erika and Crowley. Adrian felt that while it wasn't exactly simple, he might as well try. You never know until you try. Easier said than done, though. But in the end, they were still broke. In the second battle against the Death Knight, Pascal Adrian was so frustrated he was practically steaming speechless. This time, he clearly tried to use Erika and Crowley more flexibly in battle, but it was still a bust. Crowley kicked the bucket within a minute. Adrian lasted a bit longer, holding out for 3 minutes, before eventually joining Erika in the afterlife. He realized the problem was with Crowley as she went down way too fast. While she didn't deal much damage, her ability to distract was very useful. That means to maintain his combat. By style, keeping Crowley alive is essential. Adrian took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Everything will be fine," he muttered, "or maybe it'll be a total disaster." Sure enough, in this third battle, the result was the same as the first two, but at least the fight lasted longer this time, helping him see the patterns in his opponent's skills. Fifth battle. The fighter Pascal looked at Adrian, his face showing he was about fed up. Adrian, after dying countless times, had become quite used to it. He smirked and waved his hand, sending out countless beams of light. But unfortunately, just as he was getting into the flow, Crowley broke again, and there went the blood spilling all over. By the 9th battle, Adrian looked like a mess, beat up and exhausted. The opponent's damage output kept rising like the price of gold these days. The biggest problem is the casting time. While dodging his attacks, he managed to hold out for 25 minutes. This is that feasible. Next time I'll try using reflex boosting items instead of casting spells. I'll become an evasion mage, the kind nobody wants to be, Adrian thought to himself. Through countless times of dying and respawning, even though he was still losing, Adrian had grown familiar with the opponent's movements. His dodging skills were top tier. I tried to become an evasion mage. That might reduce the damage I can deal, but it helps me survive and allows my teammates to dish out damage freely. The result of this 62-minute battle was dealing 84% damage to the Death Knight. Adrian was convinced he could do it. I can do it? The gaming session had exceeded 180 minutes. Adrian woke up, dazed, his head fuzzy and slow. Where am I? Who am I? The side effects of excessive gaming. Erika, on the other hand, felt like she had become much stronger. Adrian suddenly realized that if he let Erika gain more experience over time, she might become just like a normal person. Thanks to the experience gained through countless deaths, Adrian's team finally defeated the Death Knight with 100% damage dealt. Mission. Coincidence at level 7 completed. Good grief. The 8th floor of the Magic Tower of Manhwa. Lucas opened up before his eyes. An old man appeared, or more accurately, the Grand Duke Lucas, code Z11. It gave Adrian a start. I am the administrator of this destiny, and also an imprint of Lord Lucas. My name is Chester. Simply put, I am the AI created by copying Lord Manhwa Lucas's memories, he said in a deep, booming voice. Even if it was just a replica, meeting him in person made Adrian's mind feel a bit complicated. He's not planning to take back what he gave me, right? He broke into a sweat thinking about how naturally the man talked, like a native speaker, not much like a pre-programmed AI. Even though Chester had no soul, he still contained Manhwa Lucas's data. Adrian had wondered if Manhwa Lucas's ultimate goal was to possess his body. But luckily, that wasn't the case. This time, Chester came to find Adrian to grant him administrative rights to the Hollywood system. The destiny you received is everything that belonged to Manhwa Lucas. Naturally, great power comes with it. Since the destiny is not yet complete, there will be limitations, but you will be able to use the power as you wish. Isai within the Hollywood virtual reality system in the future, he said. Adrian was stunned when he heard this, unable to believe his ears. The Hollywood system only existed with the features of a virtual reality and was similar to the internet on Earth. In other words, he could control all online information as he pleased. Before he started, Chester gave a light warning about the rules he was not allowed to break. Money laundering and bypassing the law via the support system would be a piece of cake. Adrian also wanted to give Erica a legal identity along the way. Having Chester's full support made him extremely grateful. Mannion Lucas handed over this power because he wanted to express his nostalgia for his homeland, and also hoped Adrian wouldn't live a life as miserable as he did back then. It was so moving that he knelt down at Chester's feet to express his gratitude. For a split second, it seemed the corners of Chester's mouth curled up mysteriously. At the Grand Duchy in the city of Nichenbasius, Basilius heard Brilliam discussing appointing Adrian as a lord, and immediately opposed it. He basically still felt that he's just a child, nothing more. William insisted that he should go see for himself the genius level of his abilities, hoping Perseus would also be willing to convince the neutral vassals and consolidate power for Andrian, a young master who has lived for vengeance for over a decade. I will have to see with my own eyes if he is truly worth following, as William claims, Perseus mused to himself. The time for the meeting with Andrian had arrived, but there was no sign of him, which made William a little anxious. Then suddenly a surge of overwhelming mana filled the air. Both of them immediately went on high alert. In a flash, Andrian and Erica suddenly appeared amidst a swirl of azure mana, leaving William and Perseus stunned. In the blink of an eye, Erica swung her sword, wiping out all 5 assassins who had been lurking in the room the whole time. Needless to say, it turned the 2 old men pale as ghosts. I heard you 2 were the strongest in the territory, yet you didn't even notice these assassins closing in. I've been dreaming of the day of my revenge for 13 years, ever since I was poisoned. Did you think I'd come? Why, without any preparation, he said with a haughty sneer. Perseus was bloodless. So much for checking on Andrian's talent. He clearly wasn't the kind of person the old man could have the guts to test. The best part of the drama was yet to come. Andrian scoffed, flicking a spark of mana. The pile of blood-soaked corpses instantly vanished without a trace, leaving everyone shocked. Realizing it wasn't safe here, he used a 7th-tier spell to teleport both William and Perseus elsewhere, the kingdom of Luas, an ally of the Renhat kingdom. Known for having the most archmages outside of the 4 empires, if anyone were asked who the most famous mage was, they would all name one person, Duke Kin Riverdale, an archmage, and the mentor who successfully trained 6 7th-tier mages. Everyone says the greatest mage of all time was Grand Duke Lucas, but the greatest teacher of all time has to be Duke Kin Riverdale. The more Perseus heard, the more his jaw dropped. He never imagined Andrian's magic teacher was Duke Riverdale. No way. Did you spend all your time playing games? Andrian just smirked at Basilius's clueless exclamation. You're right. The only place I could act without having to hold back was the virtual world. He taught me in both the virtual world and reality. But of course, that was all a lie. An archmage suddenly appearing would make anyone suspicious. The fact that a 20-year-old kid had already reached the 7th tier needed an explanation, and the best way to stop the doubt was the reputation of being Duke Riverdale's disciple. Naturally, Andrian didn't tell these lies without preparation. He had a platinum card and a holographic photo of him, and the Duke neither was real, but he had managed to get Chester to forge them. He used them as proof. In his possession were many traces of Riverdale, and a journal of his about a secret student no one knew about. Therefore, Andrian was confident that the Riverdale family and other disciples would believe it when they found him. He wished he could claim to be the successor of Grand Duke Lucas, but those people wouldn't let him off the hook if he did that. Erica and I can handle Anna and Cedric, so there's no need to try and expand our influence for nothing, Andrian said. The reason he met Perseus today was to ask him to build an army, one that would follow his orders and gather information. The work of this army wouldn't be clean, but to reach a higher goal it had to be done, he told himself. Perseus was dazed, not knowing how to respond. Andrian's arrogant and powerful demeanor finally forced him to submit. They all began preparing for the plan to overthrow Cedric and inherit the family power to rule the country. On the other side, Anna, hearing that her 5 assassins had been reduced to nothing, was absolutely furious. These two are conspiring to do something together. They must be targeting me. I should have kept the situation under better control. She gritted her teeth, thinking about William and Perseus. Anna realized she should probably stop monitoring Andrian and Sylvia before things got worse. But if William and Perseus were now joining forces, she was in a hopeless situation. Driven into a corner, Anna decided to point the blade at Andrian. Her personal aide, who had worked for her for 30 years, was probably the most suitable person to take the fall for her. He fearfully bowed his head, saying, "As you command." Inside, he felt a bit of pity for the fate awaiting Andrian. Andrian was currently busy with the Division 23 celebrating their victory. Everyone kept praising his leadership talent. If the war had dragged on, you would have benefited even more. You've truly become a lord. But with what you have now, the rewards will be especially for you, Otis whispered with a wink into Andrian's ear. Andrian suddenly realized there was a huge difference between inheriting a title and earning it himself. Even though Andrian had reached a high level, he wasn't officially enfeoffed, nor could he inherit the title. Otis felt a bit of regret that Andrian didn't dare to fully reveal his power or confidently show himself. He expressed his desire to recruit him into his family by marrying off his daughter. Hearing this, Andrian started breaking out in a cold sweat. What? That's so sudden, his daughter. That's a bit too much, isn't it? Isn't Otis's daughter famous for being crazy? But never mind, at least I'm going home now. Anna Cedric, just you wait. After the war between Reinhard and Croissant ended, the local troops were disbanded immediately. Ever since parting ways, whenever he had free time, Andrian would log into the game and level up like crazy. The level required to challenge the Destiny quest was level 250, but Andrian was only level 202. It had been 10 days since he hit level 200, yet he felt like nothing had really changed. I thought my combat ability would improve significantly after the fight with the Death Knight, but the stronger I get, the stronger the monsters become. The XP limit keeps increasing too, so there's no way to level up once a day like before. He thought in frustration. This turtle-paced progress made Andrian consider finding more teammates. I can't do that. I hold the Destiny. It's best to avoid attention. I can be slow but steady, and eventually I will reach the max level. Just think of it as a lesson. A good experience, Andrian told himself. Suddenly, Chimthan and Erika, who had been looking outside, blinked without stopping, making Andrian panic. He logged out, and just as he exited the game, Erika frantically swung her sword, slashing in all directions across the room. It was another group of assassins lurking about, just like the ones she had killed before, 3 of them in total, all armored and armed with swords. Outside, an entire army had also begun a relentless assault on William and Perseus. This battle didn't seem simple at all. The ceiling collapsed with a thunderous roar, revealing a massive, heavily armored dwarf golem. I guess the lady has shifted her target from me to you, William and Perseus, I muttered. Actually, I prefer it that way, I said with a smirk. There was no time to let them run wild. Andrian pulled a transcendent scepter from his space pocket and unleashed a wave of hellfire that wiped them all out in the blink of an eye. The entire ship's bay turned into a sea of raging flames and thick smoke accompanied by countless deafening explosions. The leader was stunned, witnessing things far beyond his expectations. Anything else is one thing, but messing with Andrian. They were out of luck. Andrian appeared through the smoke looking as cool as a god while the enemies were trapped. They were completely stuck, unable to run, because Erika was raining down attacks. They never expected to run into a Grand Mage, let alone a Master of Aura. Messing with such monsters, every one of those brothers went pale and scrambled to save their own necks like sitting ducks. But as if Andrian would let them off that easily. "Hey guys," I said, gently snapping my fingers, and just like that, I sent the whole bunch to meet their ancestors. Just as Erika was about to finish off the leader, Andrian stopped her in time. He wanted to use this opportunity to cooperate with the man, but it was too late. The leader desperately bit down on a poison capsule and committed suicide right in front of him. Andrian's soldiers, who had been watching his display this whole time, stood there with their jaws on the floor. They had always thought he was a loser who only knew how to play games all day. But thanks to his manipulative, persuasive words, he had completely gotten inside William's head. All of them quickly came to believe that Andrian was a disciple of the Duke of Riverdale. As soon as he arrived at the mansion, his mother rushed out of the house to greet him. This strangely quiet scene made Andrian realize immediately that it was likely Anna and Cedric's doing. They didn't even bother to hold a parade for someone who was about to die, like him. But in return, his father had organized a grand celebration party for him inside. As Andrian sipped his drink, Anna and Cedric approached, their faces deathly pale, pretending to greet him. Her face was as pale as if she were about to drop dead. He caught a glimpse of Morris, a servant under Anna for 30 years, who surprisingly still seemed to have a soft spot for him. If he could turn him to his side, that would be great. Even Commander Crone, standing opposite, had some pretty impressive stats. Anna and Cedric couldn't even compare to a fraction of them. They were supposed to be the ones carrying the family's reputation. "You've done well, even though it wasn't a big deal. I'll still give you a compliment," Cedric said with fake sincerity. Andrian was annoyed. He just wanted to chop their heads off right then and there, but he still needed more evidence. These bastards had made him swallow his pride and suffer in silence. How could he let them off so easily? But that didn't mean Andrian would just take everything Cedric threw at him. "Do you really think I'm going to be happy hearing those compliments? The way you talk as if you can do everything in the world, it's laughable." Cedric was boiling with rage after Andrian's retort. He had fallen straight into Andrian's trap, turning his attitude into evidence. Andrian mocked him more and more relentlessly. Cedric was fuming, losing his mind in a frenzy before the shocked onlookers. He pulled out of his pocket a razor-sharp iron sword and pointed it straight at William. Hello? Did you get the wrong address? You instigated Andrian to ruin this family, didn't you?" Cedric screamed. "Seize this madman for me at once," he ordered aggressively, but to his embarrassment, no one listened to a word he said. Talk about awkward. Humiliated and his face turning beet red, Cedric desperately swung his blade directly at Andrian. Instantly, Erika gripped his wrist with strength as hard as stone. Seeing the guy struggling and resisting a bit too hard, she decided to gently use the piece of turkey leg. She was halfway through eating and smashed it into his face until Cedric tumbled over. The surrounding crowd was shocked to their cores, while Andrian was beaming. "Take that, you arrogant jerk. Let that teach you a lesson for being such a hypocritical liar." The overbearing CEO got served a face full of humble pie by Erika, courtesy of a delicious turkey leg. Bon appetit. The butler couldn't stand it anymore, and suddenly drew his sword, pointing it at Andrian in a threatening manner. His actions were as if he were a loyal royal guard trying to protect his king. "Oh," Andrian thought sarcastically, knowing full well that throughout this entire time, this guy had been up to no good, and yet he had the nerve to act all high and mighty, trying to lecture him. "That trash dared to attack me, a young noble. They deserve to die," Cedric roared at the top of his lungs. But unexpectedly, the butler did a 180-degree turn and sided with Andrian. "Of course they will all have to die. However, as a retainer, I cannot harm the second young master, a member of the noble family. That being said, that's a different story for that woman. There is no reason for me to reconsider harming a commoner who dared to hurt and oppose a noble, so I will deal with her directly without needing any judgment from the court." Whoa, wait a second. What kind of plot twist is this? Heaven, please give Andrian a helmet already. Erika's expression hadn't changed at all. She calmly stood there chewing her meat, ignoring the butler who was preparing to strike. William hurried over with his troops to block the blade. The butler looked confused, not expecting that among these troops there were people who were treacherous, putting their own interest before loyalty, yet voluntarily choosing to follow Andrian. Something wasn't right here, he muttered to himself. Anna and Cedric's reinforcements were marching in. Andrian finally understood why Anna, who was usually overly sensitive whenever Cedric was mentioned, was now able to remain this calm and silent. She must have gathered her knights through secret communication. Both sides lunged at each other, preparing for a terrifying family war. In terms of numbers, the regular troops on their side seemed to be more numerous, but they were not properly armed, whereas Cedric's faction had over 10 soldiers who were equipped, and their gear was much better. If this were a real battle, it would be a one-sided slaughter, Andrian thought. The butler, with his sharp, stinging tongue, kept hurling insults at him and his family, while Cedric stood behind him laughing like a maniac. It all created a chaotic, rowdy scene that made Andrian, "I've had enough. You know what they say, you want peace, but the wind just won't stop blowing." Andrian swung his hand, signaling his troops to prepare for battle. Erica finished her chicken then. She transformed ready to support Andrian. A surge of vicious mana blasted through Anna and Cedric's troops. In a flash, heads were rolling. Andrian caught that guy Crone off guard and slammed him with a lightning-fast punch that sent blood spraying from his mouth. It was unbelievable. How could I get hit by some punk who just plays video games all day that easily? He screamed like a maniac, then frantically ordered his few remaining troops to take Erica out. Yeah, right. Like you're even in my league. Andrian smirked, adding that he'd teach the old man a real-life lesson. Mages can cast spells 2 levels below their rank without chanting. That means, if Andrian is a 7th Circle Archmage, he can easily use 5th Circle spells without chanting a single word, and the skill that marks one as a true Archmage, Exploding Fireball. At that very moment, a direct hit sent Crone crashing down too slow to dodge. Anna and Cedric's faces went ghostly, pale trembling all over. Crone's entire body was charred black, like burnt meat. He tried to lunge at Andrian once more, but it was destiny. Andrian just, with one effortless basic sword strike, he sent that guy straight to his ancestors. When Anna and Cedric realized Andrian was an Archmage, it hit them like a bolt of lightning. Back in his private study, Anna's father, Raven McCrae, was burning with rage, grinding his teeth in pure hatred. Videos of Andrian were spreading across every portal and forum, making Raven want to explode. Some people started speculating that Cedric and Anna had committed treason with his backing. But even if they have an Archmage and a Master or a Knight, so what? This isn't an era where you can win a war with just 1 or 2 talented people. Besides, helping those 2 means going against Raven McCrae, a man with military force equal to all the dukes and marquises combined. It's going to be trouble if any duke or marquis stands with Andrian. However, that's unlikely since they don't want a new rival emerging. We can turn Andrian and that girl Erica into frauds. As long as no one believes they're actually an Archmage and a Master or a Knight, there won't be any issues. In this day and age, who's to say that this video isn't just some AI-generated product, right? Through this video, they're revealing that I'm the one behind Anna and Cedric. Those stupid commoners are just looking for an excuse. Their real target seems to be war. Raven scoffed. He could mobilize 3 flying fortresses and 150 vanguard soldiers or more. If Andrian wants war, Raven is happy to oblige. Andrian was in the waiting room. His revenge had only just begun. Taking down Raven McCrae was still a long way off. However, to solidify his position, there were things he needed to do first. That was the reason for today's meeting between Andrian and Olivia Riverdale, the daughter of King Riverdale. She was said to be the closest to the 8th Circle among all the Archmages in the Kingdom of Lucas. Her power was equal to the head of the Riverdale house, where a total of 6 Archmages resided. She had reached her power through talent and effort, a true genius, who had touched the 7th Circle at just 22. The platinum card Andrian gave Olivia was a fake. She seemed to have realized this, or at least had some suspicions. Suddenly, countless waves of magical resonance clashed, creating a stifling, suffocating atmosphere. So Olivia was subtly testing Andrian's strength. She didn't care if his abilities were genuine or not. It felt like she was welcoming a new Archmage. That's a reasonable way of thinking, Andrian thought to himself. Gaining her inexplicable trust and recognition, he finally sighed and spoke his wish for the day. The next day, a video from Olivia was sent to Raven. In the video, she officially announced that Andrian had become an Archmage possessing the 7th Circle at age 20. This preemptive strike left Raven completely off balance. If anyone tries to harm him, the Riverdale family will consider it an act of war against us. Olivia's voice rang out from the recording. Raven was livid, slamming his desk and chair in a rage. He declared he would continue the war at any cost, regardless of the risks. As luck would have it, this entire discussion was caught by a divine bird and relayed to Andrian. Andrian remembered asking Olivia to release that video. He only needed her to say he was a student of the former Duke of Riverdale and an Archmage. That was enough. He didn't need her to get involved any further. When it came to revenge, Andrian didn't want to rely on others. Everything had to go according to his plan under his command. They were his prey, and he didn't want to share the thrill of the hunt with anyone else. That night, the prisoners in Anna's dungeon escaped following Andrian. She frantically led Cedric and her soldiers searching high and low until she reached the top of the tower. She Press the button to infiltrate the flying fortress. With her mind in turmoil, planning to blast Andrian and Erica off the face of the earth, she verified her voice and seized administrator control of the fortress. Just as the cannons were about to rain fire down on Andrian's building, he suddenly appeared from behind and grabbed her. "You did exactly what I predicted. Thanks for unlocking the security for the flying fortress. Plotting to murder a Viscount with a flying fortress. Your crimes just keep piling up, don't they?" Andrian smirked, staring intently at Anna's pale face. She trembled in fear, her hands trying to pry Andrian's grip off her neck, but to no avail. "Raven McRae's army is coming. You and my brother will have to protect this land with your own bodies," she thought. "Criminals can hold their heads high, huh?" Andrian scoffed, then suddenly shoved her aside violently. Anna and Cedric were cornered and started fawning. "We're family. We're family." Andrian couldn't care less and immediately locked both mother and son inside a massive barrier while the troops. As for their god, I decided to fire a missile back at Raven Andrea, then asked Erika to help me edit the video to upload to social media, letting the keyboard warriors tear them apart. They ripped the entire McGregor clan to shreds, making Raven's blood boil. His airborne fortress and 200 vanguard soldiers were finally prepped and glowing. But as they fell under the power of the magic circle, they vanished instantly to where Andrian was. He had already set a trap here waiting for them. With the timing just right, Andrian began. He unleashed a mana blast at the barrier containing Anna and her mother. They and their bubble shot into the sky and exploded in a blinding flash. Sitting on the rooftop, Andrian and Erika drank wine while watching the beautiful scene of the new era. Magic, August 15th, 2019. Andrian wiped out Anna and Cedric, finally gaining his own freedom. Raven sat at home waiting and waiting, but he didn't see any news from his soldiers. He was restless, sitting on pins and needles, and then he got word that the spies he'd planted had likely been discovered and thrown in jail. Raven's blood rushed to his face. He felt like he was being toyed with by Andrea, who was young enough to be his grandson. Yet he had no information at all. Nothing was being reported back. Suddenly, one of his men, while checking online news related to the Lauren territory, discovered a new article. According to the article and the video, an evacuation order had been issued about an hour ago. All the residents in the Viscount's territory had been successfully evacuated. Raven turned purple with rage, smashing the table and chairs to pieces. His reserves were down to just 70 soldiers, or 25 soldiers accompanying a flying fortress. If the power of his forces before was equivalent to 5 flying fortresses, now their strength was barely at 1.5. Looking at the video, it's hard to say if Andrian would abandon his flying fortress to carry out a suicide bombing. No matter how ancient the Lauren family's fortress is, the force wouldn't be intact if hit by a close-range mana-enhanced bombing raid. This only points to one thing. Andrian knows every single move I make, he grumbled, thinking there was urgent news. The royal family sent an order banning any deployment of troops to attack the Viscount's territory. That sent Raven into a frenzy. He had no money left to carry out any further damage. "You said the transmission line to the Viscount's territory has been restored, right? Help me call Andrea immediately," Raven ordered his aide. The Black Eagle, much like Erika, was an assistant, but the way it was utilized was completely different. While Erika was an all-rounder who looked human, the Black Eagle was a support-focused aide. And right now, while Andrian was forced to listen to every single curse Raven spewed at him, the Black Eagle was on its way to the 80th floor of the castle. It gifted Raven a meaningful present: 10 7th-tier magical explosions. On the other end of the line, a deafening explosion rang out, then went dead silent. Rest in peace, the entire McGregor clan. Reporters had gathered in the assembly hall of the Lauren territory. Andrian walked proudly past the servants who were shaking in their boots. They used to look down on him, but now, what a joke. It was time to say goodbye to the past and play the part of a nobody. The second step in his amazing life had begun. Andrian laughed heartily as he stepped forward. The news of Andrian had flooded all mass media platforms with positive comments. In just one day, he reached 1 million followers. He was becoming an idol. The Raven McGregor incident caused controversy both at home and abroad. There were articles criticizing Andrian because the Raven clan was still very solid, but generally the public was more in his favor. This also caused those in the neutral faction to stand by him. Commoners were basically slaves to the nobles, but Andrian was different. He could leverage the support of these people. He had to prove he was different from the others by constantly sharing with them. Just then, he received a summons for him and Erika to the investigation bureau via this invitation letter. Andrian could easily identify 3 points. First, Raven McGregor's drama. Second, high-ranking nobles wanting to win him over. Third, the royal advisor intending to recruit him. They wouldn't issue an order if they didn't want to shake hands with me, Andrian thought. He planned to use money to sway the nobles, even those in the royal family. He had already made a fortune from his investments. If he used that money to pay taxes, they would surely change their minds. Andrian happily discussed it with his father. Seeing that his father's expression didn't look quite settled, he showed him his bank account balance with its dozen zeros, leaving everyone dizzy and wide-eyed. Out of the 60 trillion he had, it seemed he had to pay 1/5 in taxes. With the rest, he planned to buy airships and recruit more Vanguard soldiers. Money really can buy anything. Very quickly, Andrian finished filing his taxes on the money he'd earned from his investments. Otis saw him on TV and was incredibly proud. Miss Ann Otis's beloved daughter proudly claimed she would find Lucas's destiny herself, just to not fall behind Andrian. What a pipe dream. Just then, the TV announced that the Prius Republic had found Manuel Lucas's destiny, leaving everyone's jaws on the floor. At the tower, Manuel Lucas Andrian was currently slacking off reading books and doing research. He was less than 1% away from absorbing all the military research knowledge in the thousands of books here. Andrian realized the research that took Lucas the most time was dimensional teleportation. The reason he left clues about being from Earth was perhaps because he wanted to meet a fellow countryman, but sadly, that person only appeared after he had passed away. His legacy became Andrian's hope. Of course he wanted to go back, but he didn't crave it that much. Perhaps Lucas wanted someone to complete his research. And that might be him. Burying the Raven McGregor incident with money was a good move, but he had attracted too much attention. He was a 7th-tier archmage. By his side was also an aura master, Erika. If anyone knew that he was actually the one who found Manuel Lucas's destiny, there was a high chance he would lose everything he had. Because of that, Andrian came up with a plan to fake his own destiny. Hoo-hoo, long live the Prius Republic. Long live national hero Louis. People were cheering, welcoming the victory of Louis Famon, the owner of the fake destiny. He was 29 years old, an intelligence agent for the Prius Republic, and he was President Kachu's son is a second-generation Chibol, a shameless guy who stirs up trouble everywhere using his father's name. Adrian is going to let him pose as the master of the causal connection to divert public attention. Thanks to this stunt, he can clear away everyone's suspicions and buy himself more time to reach the 9th magic circle. Even though I don't feel guilty about placing this firecracker in his hands, I think letting him inherit the reputation of Archmage Manuel Lucas is a bit of a hassle, Adrian thought with a click of his tongue. The Prius Republic is considered one of the 4 most powerful empires in Rondo. It's practically the only country that supports democracy and presidential elections. In reality, the political and business worlds are still colluding with bribery happening constantly. The prosecutors and the media are just the government's attack dogs, no different from a dictatorship with a president who has held power for 14 years, besides Louis and Kachu. Adrian hopes this won't affect anyone else. While he wipes out his enemies without a trace, he doesn't want any innocent people caught in the crossfire. Once I hit level 9, I wonder if I could create creatures like Erica or Chester, just like Archmage Lucas, Adrian mused. He still doesn't want to use his administrative privileges yet. The last one right now, Adrian is at level 208. It seems like reaching level 250 is going to take quite a bit of time. The first condition of the quest, the 8th causal connection. Rumors were swirling all over the mansion that Adrian was going to buy 5 flying fortresses and max-tier equipment for his Vanguard force. They feel that he's not just a high-ranking noble, but also someone who will command significant military power. In other words, a new force has emerged in the Renhat Kingdom, because most of the servants in the Lord's castle were Anna's people. And now that Anna is gone, they feel like they're walking on eggshells, even though the people in the Lawrence family don't want to see Adrian's face after offending him so many times. They also don't want to lose a job with such a good environment and a stable future. As a result, they're fighting each other to see who can serve Erica, a relatively easier job. Furthermore, contrary to her fearsome title of Aura Master, her personality is actually very gentle, and she even has a sunny smile. But it seems that might just be a rumor. When a maid dared to ask Erica if Adrian would fire the butlers in the castle, Erica suddenly looked at her with eyes sharp as blades. She wanted to see if the other person happened to be his enemy. The maid broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly ran out of the room. Since then, rumors spread that Adrian loves and hates very clearly, and that Erica also hates anyone who disrespects her lover. While the war against the Croissant Empire is extremely tense besides leveling up in the game, Adrian is busy with another task, discovering talent that has the potential to use his magic glasses. Currently, there are 4 Vanguard soldiers serving as his escort, along with Lopez and Eric, 2 members of the Talent Training Institute. They all arrived at the Royal Castle to collaborate on an investigation with the Audit and Inspection Bureau for the nobility and to learn. Stepping through the teleportation gate, the capital of the prosperous Renhat Kingdom opened up before Adrian's eyes. As soon as Adrian and Erica arrived, they were treated like idols with a warm welcome from the Royal Administrative Building. He was already famous among the nobles who didn't rely on inheritance, or rather, those who succeeded through their own efforts. Adrian caught a glimpse of the man in front of him, who possessed 4 high-tier talents and the perfect leader trait, and was stunned. "Such a wonderful person as you. Baron Harris, why are you here?" It was truly the right person at the right time. Adrian didn't hesitate. He immediately handed him his business card. "If you're interested, please contact me. I'll make sure you get the best offer," Adrian said with a smile, flashing a K-pop idol finger heart. After leading everyone to the waiting room, the Baron informed him, "Only Adrian and Erica are allowed inside for the inspection. Please be careful. I don't know what will happen in there. But the Chief Inspector is not happy with you," the Baron whispered in his ear, warning him. Adrian, you've known this for a long time." As the door creaked open, sitting in rows were numerous heavy hitters. Among them was not only Chief Inspector Douglas Hamilton, but also the Second Prince Commander No. 2 of the Royal Army, Louis Renhat. "I can understand why the Chief Inspector is here, but why is the second in line to the throne sitting here?" Adrian wondered, puzzled. After a round of loving pleasantries, Adrian noticed that Louis seemed to have been trained by an Aura Master and had been popping expensive elixirs like snacks. His stats were high, but not as high as his reputation. Catching Louis looking at him with an uncomfortable, scrutinizing gaze, Adrian knew his place and immediately bowed his head to apologize. The official inspection began in a tense silence. Because there were no special findings, Louis, despite the objections of those around him, agreed to grant the title of Viscount to Adrian. "I was quite worried because the relationship between him and me is hostile, but it seems he is quite a fair person," Adrian thought to himself, surprised by the whispers. From the murmurs around him, he could tell that, including Hamilton, most of the chief inspectors were standing with Prince Louis, along with those from the Raven Margrave's faction. "It seems Prince Louis's hostile relationship with me is because of the people around him, not from his own thoughts." Adrian's first impression of Louis was quite poor, but it had improved a little. After a while, Louis suggested that Adrian join his team instead of his older brother's team. "I see this is his main goal for participating in this inspection." The first prince was supposed to have had the succession firmly in hand, but things have changed because now the second prince has become an Aura Master. They are quite evenly matched, but for the second prince to have come this far, perhaps the situation is already under his control, Adrian thought. The problem is that he and Erica, people who seem to have dropped from the sky, are not only capable individuals, but he also has financial backing. Following them are people who can change the landscape and break the balance. That's exactly why he had to get involved. This political war is completely worthless. If you join me, I'll highly value your position as an Archmage as well as your efforts in the previous war. I will help you obtain the title of Marquis." He smirked as he made the offer. Oh my God, that's way too good of a deal for Adrian. Adrian was originally planning to stay neutral, but this offer really tempted him. Suddenly catching Luke's flirtatious gaze toward Erika, Adrian felt uncomfortable and asked for some time to think. The discussion wrapped up with a 1-week deadline. Luke shook hands with both Andrian and Erika, expressing his appreciation, but Andrian felt like Luke had ulterior motives regarding Erika. "I smell something sour like vinegar in the air." Just as the two were about to grab a meal, a blond young man suddenly approached them to make acquaintance. It turns out this blond guy is the first prince, whose stats in every aspect are sky high. Andrian thought he felt like a total, domineering CEO. The first prince is standing right here, but it seems like no one notices him. Is it because of the face-swapping magic effect? Andrian wondered. You two are quite a pair, an archmage and a swordmaster. You must be able to see me. I guess this spell only works on idiots. Like my younger brother, the first prince said with a haughty smirk. This attitude made Andrian feel like he didn't seem much like a prince at all. Immediately a thought crossed his mind. Specifically, I cannot let this man become an enemy. His stats are way too high for a normal human. That kind of talent is primarily geared toward politics and leadership. But he had never seen anyone with 3 such high-tier talents except for Erika. His stats were even higher than hers. The first Prince Michael's mana is low, but he still managed to achieve the rank of High Mage. With such wisdom, it's no wonder a mysterious figure like him is so famous. Michael led Andrian and Erika into a teleportation room. We can't use a teleportation spells inside the castle. There's an anti-magic barrier wrapped around it, Andrian asked in surprise. I placed an electromagnetic stone underground. Sometimes it conflicts with the mana in the magic barrier, causing temporary disruptions to the field, Michael replied while pressing a button. The barrier immediately was deactivated, revealing a majestic view of the city. Andrian had realized from the very beginning that this person was no ordinary man. Following Michael, the two entered a lavish, opulent room. The second prince probably doesn't know that the first prince is the one in control of the palace's security system, Andrian thought happily. He gripped his hands, ready to forge an alliance with Michael right here. This is the first prince's palace, filled with trusted officials who are all highly capable. I've been following you on social media, ID Squinty Eye Boss, that's me. Nobles often look down on the virtual world, but not me. I find it very interesting. Michael smiled with his eyes closed. Andrian felt that even though Michael is the first prince, he treats him like a close friend. Compared to that second prince, it's like night and day. After the two chatted happily for a while, Andrian wondered why Michael had invited them here. Michael smiled, his intention to recruit Andrian clear on his handsome face. Michael didn't dare to promise Andrian the title of Viscount because he knew he didn't have the authority, so he couldn't make empty promises. No matter which side I choose, I won't be able to get the title if the other side refuses. He said he wouldn't stop him from obtaining the title, meaning he would help him win it, even if he stayed on the second prince's side. Andrian pondered deeply. Lord Lauren would still get the title, even while staying on Luke's side. My side won't oppose it, so it'll be easy. Once you receive it, you can just come over to my side, Michael said with a bright smile. Right now, Andrian is the trump card. The side he chooses will become advantageous. If he accepts this offer, he will receive the title and form an alliance with the first prince. If he refuses, the title is gone and he'll have to ally with the second prince. Okay then. What is Andrian waiting for? Why wouldn't I choose to side with this first prince, Michael? The two shook hands, happily becoming allies. Michael even cared about Erika's opinion, an attitude completely different from that of the second prince, which made Andrian feel very at ease. As for her, she followed Andrian's lead regardless. However, he still had one question. I'm fine with joining Prince Luke's side and accepting the title, but won't Prince Luke be suspicious if you don't show any movement? Andrian asked. Of course he would. That's why I'll pretend to object and give up afterward, Michael said. Andrian realized this was a clever move, but it still wasn't enough. Instead of ending it simply like that, Andrian suggested that Michael should also gain something from all of this. The corner of his lips curled up. He looked devious as hell. Andrian advised Michael to reclaim the Marquis title from Raven. This would be a fair trade because it would deal a massive blow to Prince Luke's faction. Just by bringing Raven down, I'll be the happiest person to take down an enemy. It's a good opportunity to corner him. How could I pass this up? Andrian thought gleefully. He wanted to be a Viscount and an Aura Master to assist Michael. If he agrees and everything goes smoothly, he'll maximize the benefits. from this undercover plan. But to his surprise, the system indicated that Michael's current mood was suspicious of Andrian. Lord Andrian, before coming to see me, who did you speak with on the second prince's side? Michael squinted, asking suspiciously. Who did I meet? Baron Walker, Prince Luke Viscount Hamilton, and 6 supervisors tasked with questioning 9 people in total. Did I do something wrong? Andrian was confused. Wait a minute, so the first Prince Michael has the same thoughts as me. He knew about this through his glasses. Michael was flustered, thinking his plan might have been leaked, because Andrian suddenly knew everything. He was genuinely shocked in his heart, realizing that Andrian's decision-making was truly unreal. Before seeing Andrian off, Michael gave him an anti-eavesdropping security device. The two said their reluctant goodbyes, and Andrian, with a flicker of movement, Arca teleported away. When Adrian opened his eyes, he was bewildered to find himself standing in a store owned by the First Prince's branch. He even caught Eric and Lopez secretly hauling away a pile of goods and dolls, featuring images of him and Erika. Since the two of them are now red-hot sensations, souvenir shops are seizing every chance to cash in. News of the connection to Grand Archduke Lucas has fallen into the hands of rivals, leaving the King of Bryn Goom in a state of fury. Even the 7 Imperial Mages, despite his suspicions, felt that what the furious group said had a 50-50 chance of being true. They had already investigated. Their progress and the methods they use are no different from ours, they noted. They might have just gotten lucky, but if it really is possible to find it that way, then that should have happened 10 or 20 years ago. It wouldn't have been their turn. Plus, they found the treasure without decoding the core itself. This proves someone likely already found it and is using the furious to create a diversion, she speculated. Edward grew more frustrated the more he thought about it. After ranking the countries that could be pulling the strings, Edward's attention turned to Adrian, the talented newcomer causing such a stir lately. He ordered everyone to step up surveillance on those kingdoms and sent a threatening message: anyone who dares to fight over Grand Archduke Lucas's treasure will be wiped out. Furthermore, he demanded that the 7 Imperial Mages recruit Adrian as a citizen of his country. Isabella Cascaban, the eldest daughter of Marquis Cascaban from the southeast, was chatting with her friends about Adrian. Those bratty kids were terrified, shaking in their boots at the mere mention of his glorious achievements, but not Isabella. She firmly believed that he, along with a few pathetic counts, couldn't possibly get revenge on her. The flying fortress is sturdier than any Archmage's magical barrier, she scoffed. And as for Aura Masters, you just need a large enough vanguard to wipe them out. Plus, Feta has a Marquis account and 4 Viscounts joining forces. You guys are selling yourselves too short. With so many high-ranking nobles, are you really afraid of Adrian, you fools? She bragged, acting arrogant and haughty. With that, Isabella hurried off toward her father's study. Following his orders, she recalled the Adrian of the past. Back then, he had platinum hair, blue eyes, and a bright, outstanding appearance, even when lost in the crowded halls of the academy. Even when she bullied him, he remained gentle and never dared to strike back. Recalling that time made Isabella chuckle with amusement. Without a political foundation, what can a measly little count do? Especially against me, someone who holds the connections of the 6th Marquis family. Little did she know, as soon as she reached her father, she heard the bombshell news that Prince Lucas had promised the title of Marquis to Adrian. Her father demanded she get close to him. Naturally, marrying him would be even better. The news that Adrian had become the 6th Marquis of Renharts hit Isabella like a slap to the face. So much for mocking him early on. She thought, her face turning pale as she ran back to her room to tell her friends, but unfortunately, they were already passed out from partying too hard. As for Adrian, after going to the palace to pay his respects, he headed home and immediately logged into Chronico. Afterward, he went to meet Perseus and his son Grand Nocturne, with 3 high-level skills. With those top-tier assets, Adrian planned to merge various materials for a long-term investment, starting with equipment for the current Vanguard. The weapon manufacturing industry for the Vanguard is split between 3 families in the Kingdom of Renharts. In other words, the Vanguard's gear is supplied by the most powerful families in the kingdom. This also meant that if he could manufacture weapons for the Vanguard, he could stand on equal footing with them. Producing Vanguard gear isn't easy, even for a great mage. In fact, aside from Adrian, there are 4 other Archmages in the Kingdom of Renharts, but only 2 of them are capable of crafting weapons. Adrian's goal this time is to grab public attention by equipping the vanguard with both the gear and the flying fortress. Perseus and his son were incredibly excited to hear his plan. As for his father, he was shocked to his core that Adrian had accepted the second prince's offer. He couldn't tell his father about the crown prince's proposal. It had to be kept secret to avoid being labeled a traitor. Adrian thought to himself that his parents hadn't yet adapted to the fact that he was becoming a noble. Just then, he accidentally blurted out a wish to recruit more members for his harem, making his parents fume with rage. He had forgotten that Eureka was currently in the role of his fiancée. As for those who had harmed his family, Adrian smirked, promising to purge them completely. The second prince and the first prince were bickering loudly over Adrian's title. The second prince kept insisting on granting him the rank of Viscount or Baron immediately, but the first prince, of course, disagreed. Everyone knows that in nearly 200 years, no one has jumped straight from commoner to marquis. This demand from the second prince was essentially declaring that he was handing power over to him. First Prince Michael said he would never allow his younger brother to gain that kind of control. He suggested having Count Raven step down from his current position. Raven, hearing this, was startled. He was incredibly nervous. "No, I would never sell out my people for profit. That is why my people trust and follow me," the second prince shouted. Raven finally breathed a sigh of relief. His mood was swinging so wildly. He felt like he would die of a heart attack sooner or later. As expected, he refused. Given the second prince's nature, refusing this proposal was a given. Michael chuckled. "In that case, I propose promoting Count Otis to the rank of Grand Count. If accepted, I am willing to pass the ridiculous reward proposal and overlook Count Raven's mistakes." Every word he uttered left his younger brother slightly unsettled. The tense atmosphere was quickly extinguished when the king decided to accept the proposal from both princes. A few days later, at the victory celebration, Adrian's whole family was present at the palace preparing for the upcoming ceremony. There he ran into his old classmates. When they saw his grand and unexpected appearance, their faces turned pale, and they were speechless. As Adrian walked away, the bratty kids rushed to find Isabella, convinced she would back them up. Eureka stood by, listening intently, not missing a word. Adrian didn't want her to kill them just yet, as he had made a promise to them previously. As soon as they entered the grand hall, Adrian's family was surrounded by endless praise and flattery from the high-ranking nobles. The moment he stepped into the main hall, Adrian was instantly swarmed by the high-ranking nobles, all fawning over him with empty flattery. "It seems word of your promotion to marquis has already gotten around." Piercing through the crowd, Adrian caught a glimpse of Raven. As soon as Raven saw him, he flinched like a frightened turtle and scurried away, the word "coward" written all over his face. The victory celebration ceremony finally kicked off. Count Otis was officially promoted to Border Viscount amidst thunderous applause. Adrian spotted the person sitting next to the second prince. It was the kingdom's most famous master swordsman, Count Vincent. Everyone was eyeing lovely Eureka, making Adrian feel a bit uneasy. After being called Adrian, and Eureka stepped forward and knelt before the king. He was granted the title of Marquis along with control over the harbor district, while Eureka was granted the title of Marchioness, with control over the Glendale district. They were both given an extra gift, a top-tier fortress. The crowd below, stunned to see Adrian leap from nothing to Marquis, began whispering non-stop. Adrian happily thanked everyone for the day, but it didn't stop there. He had the guts to state his wish, which was to declare war on the four noble houses, Doherty, Batmakama, and Royner, in a territorial dispute. The moment those words left his mouth, the entire hall erupted in chaos, as if it were about to explode. Callas van Reinhardt, the king of the Reinhardt kingdom lately, had been worried about his successor, and now having Adrian stir up trouble by declaring war on four houses right in the middle of the ceremony really gave the old man a massive headache. The second prince couldn't stop him no matter how hard he tried. Adrian couldn't care less. He turned and headed back to the main hall where Eureka had been waiting. But after what just happened, everyone currently kept a 10-foot distance from him. It seems Adrian has been labeled a danger zone. Even his father couldn't shake Adrian's plans. He could only choose to trust his gutsy son. So those old classmates, after Adrian's challenge earlier, were scared out of their wits. "Stay calm and listen to me. Even if we're nothing compared to Isabella, we are still nobles who own Viscount territories. If we combine the resources of all 4 houses, can't we beat one newly appointed marquis? One of them suggested. It sounded irrational, but somehow convincing. Just as they were debating, Andrian appeared from behind, scaring the life out of them. Pakma was still acting arrogant and shouting even now. Andrian had to threaten him with a gauntlet to get him to shut up. Just as he was about to duel him, their parents rushed over. Andrian sneered, saying he was just getting even. As for what he was getting even for, he told them to ask their own children. Your kid is a little angel at home, isn't he? It's just a shame he's never actually home. He added that a formal declaration of war would be sent in a week. Unless you want your entire family to fall just because of one stupid brat, bring him to me, Andrian said with a stone-cold expression, before turning his back and walking away, leaving behind a group of nobles with their jaws dropped to the floor at his utter fearlessness. Isabella was in the crowd, her face white as a sheet. News of Andrian declaring territorial war on 4 viscounts the moment he was promoted spread all over the internet. Surprisingly, the story of how he was bullied in school before garnered a lot of sympathy, which really moved Andrian. He was currently with Erika looking through various weapons and fortresses to prepare for the war. The wealthy Andrian browsed through them and decided to buy everything. He currently has 48 billion in cash. If he adds the assets confiscated from the vassals who supported Marcus Raven, that figure will reach 70 billion. So even if he bought 8 aerial fortresses, he would still have 20 billion left. This deal was truly massive. Honestly, it was insane. Just as he was leaving, he ran into Otis, who was just walking in. They both hugged each other, overjoyed. It was exactly as Otis thought. Andrian had just come in and snatched up all the aerial fortresses, forcing poor Otis to have to pre-order instead. Coming with Otis was his famous crazy daughter, Meeson. People say she's a notorious madwoman. Why doesn't she look like one? He thought. Through the system's lens, Andrian was startled to discover that she possessed the skill to interpret English, the language that he already knows. Otis said Meeson had been diligently searching for the legendary inheritance of Grand Duke Lucas. The person searching for the Grand Duke's inheritance happens to have interpreting skills. If I weren't from Earth, she probably would have found it before me, Andrian wondered. She said the inheritance is real, but it's hidden in a place no one knows about, a place nobles find hard to locate. It was exactly as Andrian thought. Nobles usually see the Hollywood virtual reality system as just a place for commoners to escape reality and have fun. Therefore, it naturally became a place that nobles wouldn't easily think to look. Andrian thought she was just guessing, but he didn't expect her to have some strange, unique ability. After Andrian agreed to play online diary with her next time, Meeson beamed with joy. She and Otis said goodbye to him. This girl is truly interesting, Andrian thought. I should probably keep an eye on her for a while. The families Andrian declared war on were now so worried they couldn't eat or sleep. That anxiety went to infinity when they saw the list of his purchases and the astronomical amount of money Andrian spent. Even the national budget barely covers that much. The power and forces Andrian currently possesses are an uncountable, massive number. He even has a Grand Mage as a commander, and his fiancée is an Aura Master. Oh man, just thinking about it makes them shake in their boots. Even the royal family can't do anything to him. This is the end of the line, one of them screamed, ordering the soldiers to bring Andrian here immediately. But he is currently in the territory of Marquis Loren at the city of Marie Cop, dreamily admiring the view. Whenever he looked down at the vast city, he truly felt like a great lord. Andrian's elite troops had also fully assembled by now. Half a year ago, Helena, seeing his meticulous preparations where nothing was missing, was extremely impressed. Hearing a whole crowd praising him like that made Andrian blush. He had only just barely imagined it all. He probably didn't even need to tell them. Everything just happened to click into place so perfectly that everyone was surprised. Andrian thought, embarrassed. Before him was a pile of fortresses of all sizes and functions. Andrian ordered the whole army. Right now, let's head to the battlefield. Forget everything else. Forget the royal decree. Whether I have permission or not doesn't matter. This time, I'm not staying back in a safe zone to command. I'm heading to the front lines with Erika, and showing them my true military might without holding anything back. Shouldn't you be on the front lines commanding everyone to win the troops' loyalty, especially since you've just gained power? Andrian exuded arrogance in every thought and power in every step. Meanwhile, those pathetic friends of his were at home trembling under their blankets like scared little rats. The time for Andrian's march had officially begun. The assistant to Count Elfrist of the Brigham Empire felt a pang of regret. She never expected Andrian to be granted a title so quickly. His Majesty's request to recruit him could be considered a total failure. She sneered, wondering if he was just a brainless lunatic or some weird genius. Just then, Duchess Olivia, Riverdale suddenly appeared right before her eyes. Talk about a small world. The two stared at each other in stunned silence. This wasn't something her superiors had authorized. Andrian had marched his troops right to the Viscount's estate. It was a truly unsightly display. The Viscount was drenched in a cold sweat, stammering, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. We were just training. Relax. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I won't attack without official authorization," Andrian said with a mocking laugh. His tone made it clear the moment he got that permission he'd strike immediately. "You've gone too far. This is immoral. A territory war isn't going to be approved just because of some schoolyard brawls. Does it make sense to start a whole war over that?" The Viscount retorted, agitated. Just then, Andrian's request for the territory war was officially approved. The Viscount froze in horror. He couldn't believe the royal family had abandoned him. This time, his territory was as good as gone. Without a second of hesitation, Andrian ordered Peters to activate the teleportation magic on the Sky Fortress. A massive roaring army descended like a landslide. The Viscount was beside himself with a mix of fury and fear. Frantically, he rushed back to prepare his forces for a counterattack. Andrian gently took Erika's hand, telling her they would head into battle personally, while leaving the command to Perseus. Someone once said that after taking revenge, one feels nothing but emptiness, that hatred only breeds more hatred. But Andrian thought differently. Nothing provides as clear a purpose as revenge. From Anna and Cedric to those scum at the academy, their disappearance would be the starting point for his future. Plus, seeing them scream in agony was just delightful. When that former classmate of his heard Andrian had begun his assault on his territory, he couldn't stop screaming. He cursed at his own soldiers, but at this point his only fate was to die by Adrian's hand. The soldiers, sick of his unbearable whining personality, finally snapped. "If you just let him have his revenge, wouldn't he be less angry? Wouldn't the territory suffer less damage? You're the one who started all this trouble. Why should we all risk our lives for it? If the civilians die, they're going to blame you, not him. And aren't there already a dozen innocent people who died because of you? This is just karma." The man was spiraling, trembling, still convinced that he was just punishing those beneath him. Who would have thought the tables would turn so quickly? Just then, the commander walked in and dumped a pile of vanguard gear and a sword in front of him. "Put these on. You're to duel Marquis Lawrence. That's the Viscount's order." Every word hit him like a lightning bolt. He dragged himself toward the door, burdened by the heavy armor and his own resentment. A few minutes ago, the commander had whispered to him, "Even if Marquis Lawrence is an archmage, he's still just a mage. A vanguard soldier with proper equipment can handle him if you catch him off guard. Think about it, Marquis Lawrence has no wife or children. Once he's dealt with the territory, war ends and the victory is ours. In other words, you'll be a hero to the entire Viscount house." "Damn it," he cursed. There was no turning back now. Might as well go all in. "I'll survive and I'll kill that bastard Andrian. And I won't let any of you off easy." He shouted bravado, though his guts were churning like mush from pure nerves. As he walked, he tried to calm himself. "It'll be fine. Andrian is just a mage, right? Just a mage. Just a mage, you say?" Little did he know, as soon as he reached the door, he was greeted by the sight of countless blood-soaked bodies of his fallen soldiers. Andrian stood there, power radiating from him, sweeping across the battlefield with terrifying force. All of the man's bravado evaporated into thin air. No matter how many soldiers attacked, Andrian simply snapped his fingers and ended them as easily as if it were a joke. Amidst the swirling dust and smoke as the Sky Fortress began to power up, Andrian sneered, noticing his dear old classmate. Hiding in a corner, shivering violently, his terrified soldiers pushed him out to the front. Viscount Fatma felt like he was going to wet his pants, but he had to challenge Andrian to a duel. Andrian looked slightly surprised at this man who had no sense of reality. "Okay, if you insist, I'll oblige." With a flick of his hand, blood sprayed from the man's arm. Fatma shrieked in agony like a pig being slaughtered. This attack of Andrian's on his family was meant to be both revenge and a profit-maker, killing two birds with one stone. 2 broken ribs, 1 broken arm, 1 broken wrist, 1 broken ankle. Those are the bones you broke of mine. Aside from the broken bones, you tortured me mentally so much that I've grown quite annoyed. I won't let you die comfortably. Andrian smiled brightly and used his healing magic to fix him up. "Rest well. I'll play with you later." 30 minutes, that was how long the battle lasted, between the Fatma Viscount family and Andrian, the head of the Brumnum Empire's intelligence agency, along with that blonde Duchess of Riverdale, had already been present at the battlefield. Each was harboring different intentions. Whether they came to verify if Andrian was truly outside the Riverdale social circle, or to persuade Andrian to leave the Empire, their schemes were momentarily interrupted by what they witnessed. A mage like Andrian engaging in melee combat left both of them absolutely stunned. Blink is a short-range teleportation spell that increases a mage's survivability and mobility, but without the agility to counter that blink, they didn't stand a chance. Already present at the battlefield, each of them had their own agenda, whether they were there to verify if Andrian was truly outside the Riverdale family's inner circle, or to convince him to flee the Empire. Their schemes were put on hold the second they laid eyes on the battle. Seeing a mage like Andrian engaging in melee combat left both of those women completely speechless. Blink is a short-range teleportation spell that boosts a mage's survivability and mobility. Without the agility to counter such a move, they stood no chance of stopping that spell. Anti-teleportation magic has become so common that blink spells are no longer used on the battlefield. This has completely phased mages out of combat. The fact that a mage like Andrian can fight like this all on his own, that is absolutely top tier. Every single one of Andrian's moves. It's as if he's saying, if you can't use teleportation, you'd better learn to dodge. Do you think a fight like that is even feasible? The Duchess of Riverdale, that spy girl, asked quietly. Even with support spells, it's not easy. It takes a massive amount of combat experience, Baru's body pushed to its limits and sharp combat instincts. Not just anyone can pull that off. The blonde girl replied, watching Andrian, who was busy fighting with such swagger. It seems that spy girl is already pretty smitten with the priest Andrian. After watching for a while, the spy hurried off. She had seen what she needed, and the outcome of this territory war was already way too obvious. I only came to test his capabilities anyway. But through this, he's shown so many unique habits and quite advanced combat skills while using those spells in practice. I shouldn't have doubted him, but thanks to that, I got to witness such a spectacular fight, the blonde girl said with a grin, then stretched and left the rooftop. Andrian let out a sigh of relief when he saw those 2 ladies finally leave. Now it was his turn to deal with the Magic Viscount. After a deafening explosion, the Viscount saw Andrian approaching and was scared out of his mind. His face turned pale as a sheet, and he scrambled on the ground. "Why won't you just sign the surrender treaty? I won't skewer anyone except the real culprits. In exchange, you will become a ruined, noble family, stripped of your wealth and title. Or, do you choose death?" Andrian wore a charming, gentle, and affectionate smile as he leaned in to threaten the Viscount. The man was terrified, sobbing and grimacing, promising he would sign. This was the moment the house of the Magic Viscount fell. In the war between Andrian and the 4 Viscounts, everyone knew the end was near. The House of Doherty was now in complete chaos and panic upon hearing that the Magic Viscount's house had been taken. Knowing Andrian was about to march his army there, the group of Viscounts was terrified, whispering to each other in a panic. Every one of them was losing their minds, just holding their heads and screaming like dying pigs. Should we just hand the kids over? Because the moment he conquered the young master of the Magic Viscount's house, he had already set one foot inside their castle. From the beginning, revenge was just an excuse for him to start a war. Of course, he had intentions of filling his family's treasury while building his own private force. He's planning to slowly convert the military units and then launch an attack on us. Viscount Ronnie whispered in terror, causing the rest of the Viscounts to lose their composure as well. Ronnie felt they couldn't possibly win this war in a conventional way. Just like that, he proposed changing tactics. The Viscounts each formed their own powerful vanguard squads, aiming to consolidate into one massive, terrifying legion. They wanted to pick the right moment to teleport to the border, seize the facilities, and take the border citizens hostage. If the operation succeeded, the momentum of the war would completely flip. After a 15-second countdown, they teleported to the border one by one. They didn't expect Adrian to have already set a net there, waiting to catch all the fish at once. They turned pale and trembled when they realized Adrian's aerial warship had been looming there the whole time. Just one button press and he could wipe the whole lot of them out. The operation had been exposed. The whole group panicked and desperately tried to teleport away again. But bad luck, sweetheart. The next teleportation point was right in the middle of Adrian's army's encirclement. Surrounded like this, they were absolutely doomed. Adrian beforehand had already predicted they would arrive at that exact spot. This all-seeing eye of his gave his retainers goosebumps. Using the supernatural power from his staff, Adrian had laid a trap waiting for the stupid fish to take the bait. And everything happened just as Adrian predicted. They fell right into the trap he had laid out. Back to the present, surrounded by hordes of soldiers from Adrian's side. Everyone from their camp was shaking with fear like a leaf, looking pathetic as hell. "Drop your weapons and surrender. You will be shown leniency," Adrian declared. Unexpectedly, not only did they refuse to drop their weapons, but they were backed into a corner and acted recklessly. They shouted, rallying to charge at Adrian, hoping to end the war right there. Even Adrian hadn't expected them to come up with this idea. Talk about a surprise. Amidst the urgency of Adrian's retainers, Erica quickly drew her sword to rush and shield Adrian. That bunch of scumbags thought he would be an easy target, and all drew their weapons, charging in to gang up on Adrian like a storm. Countless killing auras were unleashed, demanding Adrian's surrender immediately. Looks like it's not even bedtime yet, but they're already dreaming. Adrian gave a look of pure contempt. He let them know he didn't care about the situation at all, as it was just a waste of his time. With a relaxed demeanor, Adrian raised his hand and drew several magic circles. A flurry of explosive bombs erupted accordingly, with a loud boom, leaving the bunch of them scrambling. This one wants to take him out, that one wants to deal with him. Adrian no longer had any reason to hold back. His fiery rage was finally unleashed, catching them completely off guard. Their entire bodies were engulfed in a sea of flames, and they were in complete disarray, trying in vain to slash through it with their enchanted blades. As the embers faded away, they were already exhausted. Adrian took this moment to use his magic, striking a straight path toward the leader. His power was so great that the aura from their vanguard equipment shattered in just 5 spell rotations. "Talking so much is giving me a headache." Adrian powerfully swung his hand, slashing once with decisive bloody force, while the man was still left in utter confusion and disbelief at his strength after that brutal battle. Adrian leisurely sipped his soda while reading the news reports about himself. The territorial war between Adrian and the 4 Viscounts had wrapped up in just half a day. The final battle was a one-sided campaign. There was no way those Viscounts could have won, and Adrian quickly seized the remaining castles. All the officials and soldiers deeply respected and admired Adrian, and even more so Catherine. She seemed to have adapted very well to his castle a few days ago after the territorial war ended. Adrian had forced those who bullied him and Catherine back in the day to kneel down and apologize to both of them. They were the 4 people who had tormented Adrian and Catherine in the past, back when she had been injured. She was hurt so badly she had to drop out of school, all because she dared to talk to Adrian. "The one being bullied might not know it, but you were my savior. From now on, please smile, Adrian." She smiled while holding Catherine's hand, which moved her deeply. So for the past few days, Catherine had stayed at Adrian's castle to help him look after Erika. Every day was full of joy for Catherine, and seeing her happy, Adrian felt happy too. "I'm reminded once again that bringing you onto my side," I thought to myself, "was a very wise decision. Viscount Fatma, Viscount Duhardy, Viscount Kama. The disappearance of the 3 families supporting the second prince has actually brought us a favorable outcome. I'm truly grateful, First Prince." He beamed, sipping tea and praising Adrian non-stop. In contrast, the first prince was visibly annoyed, questioning whether Adrian had to go that far. Are you doing this to the nobles on your own side too? Even if the goal was revenge, he believes Count Brooke and Cascaban McGrav also committed the same crimes as those 4 viscounts. That and Zevon McGrav, my sworn enemy, they should be dealt with too. But I should show some respect to the second prince and show mercy. After a month of silence, he said he would let it slide this time, Adrian said, and the first prince burst out laughing, saying, regardless, this incident has narrowed the gap with the second prince's faction even further. However, what I want is not a narrow victory but a total, complete triumph. No, won't a civil war cause the country to collapse? Exactly. If national power becomes imbalanced due to civil war, our enemies, the Croizon Empire, will start acting up again. That is my betrayal plan. Even though politics is just a dog-eat-dog arena where people tear each other apart, a betrayal plan would definitely stir up a storm. That must be what a normal person would think. Adrian fell into deep thought, suddenly remembering something. Adrian smirked and said, the second prince keeps hitting on my Eureka. If he keeps this up, I might just pick a fight. Having said that, but deep down, Adrian didn't feel a shred of regret. The first prince heard this and was slightly shocked. First of all, as his relative, let me offer you an apology. He's become a bit too arrogant since becoming an aura master. He tends to think women will just fall for him if he flirts with them. He's that much of a tool, Adrian laughed awkwardly. As for Eureka, she slashes people as often as she drinks tea. But she is still an innocent child who doesn't understand many things. If this continues, it seems I'll be the first one to blow that greasy head of his off before the real confrontation even begins. The first prince pondered for a moment, and then offered an opinion. Why doesn't Adrian just marry Aurica? This unexpected proposal left Adrian feeling flustered and anxious. At Count Glenn's castle, Adrian strolled around the grounds, thinking about the marriage mentioned earlier. Marriage might be the best option for this situation, but it wasn't something he could decide easily. Eureka and he were only lovers on the surface. They weren't really in love. Eureka is one of the legacies left by Grand Duke Lucas. He was sure she would follow his every decision without a single complaint, but just because she was created for him. Did that mean he could use her however he wanted, and even marry her, regardless of her feelings? With a throbbing headache, Adrian suddenly ran into Eureka right there. Today she looked unusually beautiful in her attire and makeup, causing Adrian to blush deeply. Seeing a pile of people lying unconscious in the grass nearby, it was because they had just been taught a lesson by Eureka. Adrian felt a bit of pity for them. Just then, Catherine rushed over from afar to inform Adrian that the second prince had sent someone wanting to meet Eureka. Adrian felt like he'd been struck by lightning, thinking the guy must be crazy to have the nerve to overstep his bounds like this. Eureka was also cold, letting it be known she didn't want to see him at all. While he was confused, the second prince's lackey, without him even noticing, had approached and was cheerfully greeting Eureka. He jumped in surprise when he saw Adrian also standing right beside her. Why so surprised is meeting me beside my fiancé? That's shocking. Why are you here? Spit it out. Adrian was ice cold, not even trying to be polite. The lackey gathered all his courage, pulled a fresh bouquet from his pocket, and held it out to Eureka. Respectfully, the second prince would like to invite you to a meal. Eureka didn't feel anything, so she took it and handed it to Adrian. Adrian, quick as a flash, tossed the damn bouquet into his dimensional space, while the other guy looked on in shock. Even though Adrian was pissed and about to fucking explode, the lackey was still stubborn, wanting an answer to the prince's invitation. What family are you from? I heard that to become a royal knight, you need some backing. I like to take my flying fortress and destroy other families. You've seen the news, right? However, I can't blow your head off because you're just an errand boy for the second prince. But I'm wondering if I should blow your parents' heads off instead. Adrian sneered, threatening him, making the lackey go pale as a sheet. I feel insulted, but should I put myself in your shoes? From now on, I won't let anyone make unreasonable demands on Eureka. Go tell your highness this. I hope we can maintain a friendly relationship like this, but Nyen, if you keep provoking me, I might just snap. Let me make one thing clear, this woman is my fiancée, Adrian said, gripping the henchman by the collar and threatening him. The henchman relayed this incident. He told the second prince, who became absolutely furious. The courtiers were sweating, advising the second prince to restrain himself as continuing to provoke Andrian was not a good idea. If you truly want to possess that woman, wouldn't it be better to act after you've ascended to the throne? One person made a suggestion that the second prince found quite reasonable. That's a good idea. I will certainly teach that brat Andrian a lesson. But now is not the time. I have another reason to climb that throne. The second prince smirked. Andrian, meanwhile, was currently enjoying life with a bank balance of over 42 billion won. Everything had ended beautifully. He had also finished calculating the results of the civil war. Not only was there money from the defeated countries, but he had also seized Midrin Manistone's jewelry, anything of value. Andrian was addicted to the feeling of looting the enemy's assets, and then enjoying the riches. The greatest achievement in this civil war was the hilt of the Sword Saint's relic. It was a sword hilt used by a saint in the mythological era. It was incredibly durable and released energy. When combined with mana and holy power, it would take on a shape similar to a sword. The reinforced aura, everyone knew it wasn't an ordinary object. Ozachankum is a rare mineral with a limited production of about 500 grams per year in the Holy Land of Everhill. Just that little bit is worth more than a flying fortress. But his urgent business now was to enter the game with Erika to fight. The two of them teamed up, and with a few basic strikes they wiped out that garlic-breathed Dracula. He'd been so busy lately that Andrian only spent 3 hours a day in the game, so he was only just shy of level 205. He had to focus on leveling up. First of all, any task that didn't require his personal attention, he left to his assistant. As for recruiting talent in real life, he had given Erika a pair of glasses to handle that while he played the game. This way, he would level up quickly and obtain the 8th circle spell. Andrian calculated happily. One day, Erika informed him that she had discovered a high-level talent, someone with holy power, a unique attribute, and the aptitude of a saintess. Andrian, upon hearing the word saintess, shouted in surprise. Very quickly after that, Erika Zanglet and 2 black-clad cohorts arrived aggressively at the entrance of the shop where the saintess girl was working, making the poor kid break out in a cold sweat. Her name is Eveline Barnett, 15 years old, a commoner with very high saintess potential. In Rondeau, there is only one god and one religion. They worship the Creator, also known as the only God. The doctrine about him is called CPM. The headquarters of CPM is the Holy Land of Everhill, a superpower that even the Brigham Empire has to respect. The 3 pillars of the Holy Land are the Holy King, the Holy Man, and the Saintess. The Holy King manages the temple, the Holy Man holds the military, including the Holy Knights, while the Saintess oversees the priests who wield holy magic in the world. After Erika escorted Eveline to the talent hall, Andrian immediately rushed to meet the girl. After the introductions, Andrian realized she truly had the aptitude of a saintess. It seems Erika really does have a sharp eye for finding Eveline. Do you want to be an administrator? No. Your talent doesn't fit that path. You have holy power and good aptitude, so you should choose the position of saintess. Of course, potential alone isn't enough to become a saintess. The Holy King, who is blessed by the only god Sepia, is from the royal lineage and was raised to be king. But the Holy Man and the Saintess are chosen by God every year in a competition. You have to perform well to impress God in the Saintess selection. Andrian said, God sent this talent to me. How can I waste her? I know of a Saintess selection competition being organized soon. I want to wholeheartedly help you, Eveline, become a Saintess, Andrian proposed. Eveline immediately shook her head frantically, afraid she couldn't do it. But out of 10, Saintesses 7 were commoners. It wasn't impossible. It wasn't something that could be done overnight. She herself needed the will and effort. Before the competition took place, she had to learn a lot from etiquette to theology and holy arts. For now, I will give you a 200 million deposit, and your monthly salary will be 500 million. Andrian made an offer that left Eveline stunned. The reason Andrian was being so generous was that if he could train a saintess, the power he would hold would be immense. Andrian thought for a while and felt that Eric was quite well suited for Eveline. Eric was politically savvy and very talented. If he helped Eveline, they would certainly reach the pinnacle of glory. Eric, I leave her to you. In a short time, the two of them had already become close. Andrian chuckled, pairing Eric and Eveline together. He was very much looking forward to this battle for the Saintess position. While Eveline was still adjusting to her new environment, Andrian and Erika were still grinding in the game, every day fighting monsters and spending all their time leveling up. Although they were trying, it wasn't significant. Andrian's leveling speed was still too slow. I can't really make an impact with my leveling speed. Of course, at times like these, hunting with a party of 510 members was necessary. The party would equip many items or skills, but the coordination between two people plus a pet would be more useful. The real problem is that my rate of encountering other players is increasing, Andrian thought in frustration. He then intended to take Erika and the eagle and leave. Suddenly, a girl in the opposite group approached and curiously asked, "Andrian, how did you get a support pet like yours?" "It's just a wild animal that I temporarily tamed, using a taming spell, not a support pet." Andrian muttered, annoyed that he had to explain this yet again. Like this. Since he didn't want to draw any unnecessary attention over the following days while fighting, Andrian thought about buying out the company that created Chronico Online. If the game's main target audience is commoners, then it's highly likely the valuation would be quite low. That could actually work, Andrian mused, but his plan was quickly crushed when he saw the system list the game's market value at $102 trillion. What the? Are you kidding me? So what should I do now? Should I buy slaves and set up a slave trading business? No, absolutely not. Buying slaves as someone from a democratic nation just doesn't sit right. Should I use my final wish ticket even though I really don't want to? It's not like this is an emergency or anything. Is there any other way to boost my leveling efficiency without running into other players? After racking his brain for a while, Andrian suddenly thought of a very convenient method that didn't require buying the game outright. It was to monopolize a hunting ground. At the Black Dragon Guild's operations room, the members were buzzing about the new limitations on game access time. Not only was it capped, but you couldn't even use money to buy items anymore. Suddenly, the atmosphere was interrupted when a young woman entered the room announcing that someone wanted to see the guildmaster. The guildmaster had initially refused to meet them, but then heard the visitor had brought 100 high-grade, incredibly expensive Heart of the Desert items as a gift, and was decked out in top-tier gear. Everything he was wearing was usable at level 200. The guildmaster immediately did a 180-degree turn in attitude. The visitor introduced himself as Minzy. In reality, it was Andrian disguised and wearing the expensive set that left the guildmaster dazzled. "You said you wanted to make a deal with me. May I ask what brings you here?" the guildmaster asked softly. "I want to rent the Black Dragon Guild's hunting ground exclusively. I want to block other players from entering the hunting grounds that your guild owns and, fine, I want to rent it on the condition that only I can enter." This bizarre request from Andrian left the guildmaster bewildered. Renting a hunting ground and exclusively, I've never heard of a deal like this before. Plus, he wants the guild to manage it while prohibiting anyone else from using it while he's renting it. What kind of ridiculous deal is he talking about? Andrian then offered to pay 5 times the income the guild made from that hunting ground. The hunting ground he wanted to rent was the Chimera Dungeon in Canton. Hearing this, the guildmaster was stunned once again. Because the Chimera Dungeon was used by over 200 players a day, the profits it brought in were huge. "No problem. In exchange, you must block all other players from entering," Andrian replied happily. The guildmaster had assumed the place contained a special item or was linked to some hidden quest. Who would have guessed that Andrian would coolly say he simply wanted to level up alone without anyone getting in my way? "If you want, I can pay more. It's no problem if you want to trade directly. From now on, I will rent it for 1 month and we will continue the deal if my leveling goes well. But if my leveling rate is slow, I'll rent another one of your guild's hunting grounds. That means I will keep renting until I reach my maximum level." Hearing Andrian say that the guildmaster couldn't keep her jaw from dropping, feeling like she had just struck a gold mine, she chirped at her underlings to hurry up and bring tea to their VIP, happily checking the money transferred to her account, and ordering her men to clean up the Chimera Dungeon to ensure not a single person remained inside. Truly, the power of capital is just that brutal. After renting out the dungeon for himself, Andrian fought hard, causing his experience gain rate to skyrocket double what it was before. Reaching level 220 in just 1 month, it seemed, I'll reach level 250 faster than expected, Andrian thought excitedly. But Sukana mentioned the selection competition taking place at the Holy Land would be held sooner than planned. This caused Andrian's leveling plan to be interrupted once again. The competition being held earlier than expected actually seemed like a good thing for Andrian, because thanks to that, the number of contestants could drop significantly. All they had to do was come up with a strategy so that Evelyn could stand out and win without any worries. First, we must turn Evelyn into a candidate for the position of Saintess representing the ZH Kingdom. 2 weeks ago, a donation was sent under Evelyn's name to the Archbishop of the ZH Kingdom. Tomorrow, the Pope of the ZH Kingdom will be visiting our territory. Ms. Evelyn and I will go out to welcome him, Andrian said. It seems his plan is to woo the Pope first. If he succeeds in winning over the Pope, he will be able to request support from the royal family. Ms. Evelyn has someone who always encourages her, so she will be fine. That is Evelyn's assistant. He will always act like a pro. Andrian confirmed firmly to the assistant, making the guy feel somewhat at ease. Only now did he show Andrian the information he had asked him to investigate regarding the candidates participating in the Saintess selection competition. There were 3 most influential people. First, Grey High 11, the granddaughter of the Queen of Elvenham. Second, Evelyn Francis, the 3rd daughter of the Duke Evelyn family of the Green Gum Kingdom. Finally, Judy Esther, a commoner from Everhill, the assistant said. Andrian, who was initially thrilled to see candidate number 3 was also a commoner like Evelyn, suddenly saw the line stating her sponsor was Princess Olivia of the Lucius Kingdom, which immediately extinguished his newly sprouted hope. They are all very famous young ladies. Even if, though you exclude the sponsors, they are all more outstanding than Evelyn. Honestly, when I saw the list of candidates, I really wanted to give up, Andrian worriedly thought to himself. But since rivals like this will appear anyway, I want to take a gamble just this once. I believe in Evelyn's potential. I cannot give up the title of sponsor for the Saintess, Andrian said powerfully. Today's work was finished. Andrian was about to go play the game when the manager suddenly called him back, asking, "How much do you intend to donate to the Archbishop, sir, based on what I know the Archbishop of the Kingdom?" "RH isn't the type to be swayed by money," Adrian replied with a cryptic smirk. Meanwhile, Olivia just heard that Adrian had donated a massive sum of 10 billion to fund his attempt at the Saintess selection. That made her find him quite intriguing. The next day, the Pope of the Zenith Kingdom, after meeting Evelyn, couldn't stop praising her financial power. Adrian was secretly relieved to have the Pope on his side. "Pope Fred, there's something I'd like to discuss with you. To be honest, the Judy Esther side has proposed forming an alliance. To be precise, it was a request from her sponsor, the Riverdale Duchy, not the young lady herself." "Judy Esther," Adrian mused. "Lady Esther is a strong candidate. I think this matter is worth considering. But first, it's best to improve her abilities. Once Lady Evelyn is selected, she can compete against Lady Esther later." It seemed the Riverdale Duchy had no desire for confrontation. "Still quite the marquis, aren't you?" The Pope chuckled. Adrian had actually wanted his side to be the first to propose an alliance, but thanks to the duchy's goodwill toward him, he saved a ton of effort. Now Adrian just needed to get the Zenith royal family on his side. The prince, just as Adrian expected, didn't refuse his request. Before Adrian left, the prince informed him that the daughters of Count Otis and Count Egot had both gone missing. Adrian was stunned. "Count Otis's daughter? Surely you mean Michelle? And Count Egot, isn't he the second greatest aura master in the kingdom? Second only to Marquis Vincent, right? I thought for sure he'd be on the crown prince's side." Adrian froze, his mind racing. He tried to put on a fake, cheerful face to congratulate the prince, but inside he was a tangled mess because the Saintess selection was coming up and now this had happened. Very quickly after that, Adrian rushed to find the crown prince looking extremely anxious. Count Otis and Count Egot are distant relatives, so they're quite close. Count Egot loves Miss Michelle like his own daughter and volunteered to protect her while she traveled alone. The problem is she was traveling to a place of conflict with the Brigham Empire, a place where war could break out at any moment. The Republic of Prius. I don't know if you're aware, but Miss Michelle Otis is a fan of Grand Duke Lucas, and she really wanted to find Destiny. But we all heard that Destiny would be found in the Republic of Prius, right? She didn't know that and planned the trip, the Crown Prince explained to Adrian. Adrian, who had been blaming whatever idiot suggested they go into a death trap, was suddenly stunned and dead silent upon realizing that it was his own fault. Oh snap. So it was Adrian's own mess after all. The Crown Prince said he had requested extradition through official diplomatic channels and secretly formed a task force with the National Intelligence Service. Adrian felt that a diplomatic conflict would be hard to avoid, but the Crown Prince was willing to take that risk. Because of those two, Adrian had no choice but to suggest to the Crown Prince that he would go there himself. I am the perfect person to rescue them both. I will go there secretly and hide my identity. But just in case, I want you to clear a path so my identity isn't discovered. Adrian stood up resolutely. After all, it was all his fault. The Crown Prince stared blankly for a few seconds before standing up and agreeing to let Adrian handle them. This was turning into an unintended illegal immigration. Count Egot and Miss Michelle were currently fleeing from Magic, fired by hostile forces running for their lives. Because the force was too strong, both were quickly severely injured and tumbled to the ground. The soldiers, each holding weapons, aggressively surrounded them, even though Egot tried his best to convince them that they were just tourists. With no hostile intent toward their country, they ignored him and fiercely declared that the moment Michelle touched destiny, they were both sentenced to death. Just as Michelle was crying bitterly, Egot whispered in her ear, "You see the opening in the perimeter on the left-right. When, I give the signal, run for it. Don't look back. If you can make it 300 meters, you can use the teleportation scroll. I can handle myself without, you don't worry." Sensing their lapse in guard, Egot immediately shouted, "Michelle, run." She ran, trembling, with tears streaming down her face. Behind her, the soldiers were shouting, ready to chase. Egot quickly drew his sword to fight to the death and buy time for Michelle. Just as the soldier's enraged sword was about to strike Egot, an explosion rang out, and the soldier was finished on the spot. The rest of the soldiers quickly met the same fate. Egot looked up in shock at the sky where the aerial fortress Icarus was hovering. Inside Icarus, after taking out those soldiers, Adrian immediately used teleportation with Erica to descend. Now he could clearly see the Prius Revolutionary Army helping the two escape. Behind them, the Republican vanguard and other forces were clashing. Adrian hurriedly put on his mask and swiftly cast fire magic, causing massive explosions that wiped out the chaos behind them. Erica simultaneously drew her sword, cutting down the rest. In 30 seconds, it was done. Adrian headed toward Egot and Michelle, who were trembling in fear. He wanted to take them back. Michelle, sharp-eyed, seemed to recognize who was behind that mask. Seeing Adrian put a finger to his lips to signal silence, she happily grabbed Egot's hand and pulled him toward Adrian. Suddenly, a soldier from the Prius Revolutionary Army reached out to block Michelle, saying they had a few questions for her. They definitely have an objective, Adrian thought. That's why they protected those two, even if it meant clashing with the Republic of Prius's vanguard squad. "Milady, I heard you managed to touch the fate of Louis Famon. Is that fate real?" the soldier asked Meeson. Hearing this, Adrian couldn't help but be stunned. Israel was amazed. "Judging by the exterior, it looks real, but after a close inspection, the inner essence doesn't meet my expectations," Israel said. "Meeson, there's a slim chance it's real. But it's clear as day that this is a fake." Then, the commander's judgment that this is a fake fate, created by the very person who discovered it, is correct. The soldier immediately declared, making Adrian's blood boil slightly. He wondered if he should just wipe them all out, but he quickly reined in that thought. Stirring the hornet's nest without knowing the strength of the Revolutionary Army and who is pulling the strings is too dangerous. No one knows yet that Adrian found the actual fate, so for now it's better to keep quiet. Meeson, addressing the soldier's question, explained that she approached the fate through the network. When she remotely accessed Louis Famon's device, she discovered he frequently connected to a specific domain, so she thought that was the gateway to the fate. Indeed, she is no ordinary person. I didn't expect anyone to investigate so deeply. If I hadn't taken the fate, first she would have become the master of it, Adrian thought. Looks like there's another hacker here. Just as Adrian cut in, intending to lead Meeson away, the soldier blocked them again, saying their commanders have invited the two of them, Aziz and mission to the Republic of Prius's northern Frostway. Unexpectedly, Ian Jeremy, commander of the 1st Assault Squad of the Prius Revolutionary Army, and Gray Darkland, commander of the Assault Squad, Number 3, were there. Even Israel Ostia Prius, a 7th-tier Grand Archmage, and their commander was present. Furthermore, his background was terrifying. He was the former prince of the Prius royal family. He was maxed out in every possible way. Israel approached them cheerfully to greet Aziz and Misan, saying he saved them because he felt it was the right thing to do. Right thing, my foot. Andrian was certain he had an ulterior motive. Marquis Andrian Lauren and Countess Arika Glenn, greetings. Israel had already discovered Andrian and Arika's true identities, leaving him dumbfounded. Aziz was equally shocked, only just realizing that beneath that mask was Andrian the Second Prince's man. Knowing he couldn't hide it any longer, Andrian and Arika had to remove their masks. He smirked and asked Israel, "How did you recognize me?" "It's a secret," Israel replied coyly. "It seems this Prince Israel is a very devious man." Andrian shrugged and said, "I'm surprised you know me." Israel, curious, asked for the secret. Andrian retorted, making the atmosphere tense. "It was just a hunch. The couple, a Grand Archmage and an Aura Master, I just guessed from your youthful voices," Israel said, but Andrian didn't believe a word of it. "And I have long been interested in the Republic of Prius, and your revolutionary army as well," Andrian bluffed. Israel laughed contentedly. He turned back to Myson and asked, "You've already copied the research documents of Grand Archmage Lucas, haven't you?" Mizzen jumped, her face full of worry. Copying the research documents, she certainly could have. She had connected to the fate, but if she only looked at what was inside, she was too naive. "That can't be it, right?" Andrian wondered curiously. Israel was now relentlessly offering to let Myzen show him a portion of the research data, promising to compensate her. "The fate has to be obtained step by step. Even Louis Feynman couldn't do anything with it. So how could I? Most of the data I accessed that day was just commercialized technology," Meeson replied, trembling. "That's fine. Suppose I get the blueprint to pass down to future generations, that would be good. But there's no other way because I don't even have that. What I want is the material used to create the Vanguard equipment. This data is very fundamental to the industry, isn't it?" Israel said. It seems he had figured it all out. Meezen's fear was justified. One move by her could lead to a war. "Marquis Loren also revealed my identity, but I am the descendant of the former royal family. You all know how much blood was shed when the nobles were at odds until my family established the Republic's political system in this country," Israel said arrogantly. To someone from Earth like Andrian, the democratization in Prius was quite strange. It was the Prius royal family itself that proposed establishing a republic. Andrian was certain the king was a great man, but he forgot one thing he created a democratic state for. The people, but the democratic state wasn't won by the people. It was unilateral democratization, literally. The current president, Castro Femon, has been swept up in the vortex of public opinion. The result is that this country has become more dictatorial than a feudal state. Israel, as a descendant, decided to correct this mistake. He would enlighten the people of the republic to establish a democratic republic that isn't distorted as the foundation for the country's progress. Regardless, the path he is taking is still long, but it seems they are doing better than the current regime, Andrian thought to himself. Meeson hadn't said a word. The issue was too complex. She felt it was hard to solve. The atmosphere between the two factions fell into silence. After all, if this situation continued, there was a high chance this transaction would turn into extortion and threats. As someone who was once a citizen of the Republic of Korea, should I give her a hand? Andrian thought, then immediately spoke up, proposing that Meeson cooperate with him, which stunned everyone. "But we need the blueprints for the Vanguard's enhancement equipment," Israel said, breaking into a sweat. "Besides, I was planning to produce and sell them anyway. I already own the blueprints for the equipment." This statement from Andrian left everyone in deep thought. Israel looked as if he had just had a bucket of cold water dumped on his face. He couldn't believe it. Andrian confidently asserted that the efficiency of the enhancement equipment he produced was very durable. Saying that, he pulled a strange blueprint out of his pocket for Israel to see. Israel held it in his hand, feeling that the quality was indeed truly excellent, but he couldn't believe it. Why, sir? So you've decided to help us by revealing your secret, and just because you like me? Israel asked. Adrian's sudden expression of affection caught Israel completely off guard, and he was absolutely thrilled. Just as Israel was about to name his price, Aziz rushed over to stop him, feeling that trading technology without royal permission was illegal. No one speaks, no one knows, no one hears. I mean, we already know each other's secrets anyway. So let's behave. These people are being treated like rebels by the Republican government. The daughter of Count Otis, who holds both the fortune and my illegal trades. It wouldn't be strange if we were suddenly attacked by the Green Gloom Empire. They are linked in such complicated ways, Adrian said. Mizan realized they were in a secret relationship and was incredibly intrigued, promising to keep it a secret. Actually, if it gets out, it doesn't matter because Adrian will handle it later. I already poured 10 trillion into the plan to make Everine the Saintess. After that, I'm broke, so this is perfect, Adrian muttered to himself while calculating the transaction amount. After returning to the Grand Prince's palace, Aziz and Mizan were scolded by the Grand Prince until they were stunned. Adrian sat by sweating bullets on their behalf. The Grand Prince's words were truly sharp as a blade. Suddenly, Aziz wondered why Adrian and Erika, who were supposedly on the second prince's side, were here. This old man is truly clueless. Actually, they are on our side, the Grand Prince said, clutching his head in exhaustion. Seeing Aziz still looking bewildered, Mizan couldn't take it anymore and shouted out loud that Adrian and Erika were just acting, pretending to be on the second prince's side. Now Aziz finally understood everything. What a naive, foolish old man. Erika saw Mizan winking at Adrian and felt a flare of jealousy. After finishing his tea, Adrian was about to say goodbye when he suddenly heard news reported to the Grand Prince. The Green Gloom Empire had declared war on the Prius Republic. Magic calendar, November 10th, year 2019. The Green Gloom Empire declared war on the Prius Republic. Meanwhile, the Prius Republic strongly condemned the Green Gloom Empire for starting the war, and they were calling on neighboring allies to legalize ownership of Destiny, led by the Destiny user Louis Famon. The whole group, Adrian and the Grand Prince, quickly sat down to discuss the matter. Tensions escalated because of the Grand Duke's Destiny, but they finally managed to do it. Adrian thought, I predict the victory ratio will be 6-4. 6 for the Green Gloom Empire, obviously. Because for the Green Gloom Empire to invade the Prius Republic, it will be very difficult for them to cross the sea and approach Prius, so the Prius defense line will have the advantage. But because it's the Green Gloom Empire, it will be quite difficult for the Prius Republic. The Green Hat Kingdom cannot intervene in the war at this time. We can only hope that the war ends without any significant casualties, and ends with the British Empire sentencing the Prius Republic. Furthermore, the best-case scenario would be for the Revolutionary Army to have spent their time gaining experience seizing the opportunity to overthrow the current government. Seeing Adrian lost in thought, Aziz thought he was making a choice despite the current chaotic situation. Adrian felt that the old man was truly losing it. He didn't care if he misspoke, but how could he dare to talk about that illegal deal in front of the Grand Prince? Actually, we borrowed the strength of the Prius Republic's Revolutionary Army to save those two. We needed their internal information network, and I happened to know them too. So we were forced to pay a sum of money, but I was a bit surprised because their scale was larger than I thought, Adrian said. Accordingly, the Revolutionary Army would take advantage of this situation from now on. It's best if we don't discuss the war any further. Let's end the meeting here. The Grand Prince stood up, ordering the group. He didn't forget to remind Aziz and Mizan that they had to keep Adrian and Erika a secret at all costs. Aziz and Mizan seemingly had to stay here to keep their big mouths shut. Mizan was very happy because she felt she would get to see Adrian and Erika more often. Seeing Mizan flirting and winking at Adrian again, Erika's jealousy flared up, making Adrian groan. Damn it. The war between the Green Gloom Kingdom and the Prius Republic quickly broke out. As soon as the two countries declared war, expeditionary forces were summoned as fiercely as if they had just been waiting to besiege the Prius Republic. Responding to this move, the Prius Republic relied on home field advantage and deployed a solid defensive formation, although a direct clash had not yet occurred. Experts predicted that armed conflict would take place immediately, or at the latest within 3 days. Just like that, while the world situation was tense, Due to the war between the two kingdoms, the variety show Tony invited Adrian to participate to celebrate its 10th anniversary. Adrian stepped out poised in a suit, fully committed to filming the program. A few days ago, Erica had informed Adrian about what Everine was missing compared to other candidates in the Saintess selection process, the level of public recognition. To solve this problem, Adrian and Everine had to put in some effort. That was the reason Adrian was present on the show today. Opening the show, Adrian threw out a few dry jokes, making the atmosphere more lively. As I said, today's topic is considered a taboo in society. A relative experiment between mages and knights will be carried out immediately. How do you find today's topic, Lord Adrian? The MC asked. Adrian said this topic was extremely interesting, even though many experts evaluated today's topic as quite disadvantageous for a mage like him. Suppose you perform well when competing in strength, we can recover our investment. But if the opposite happens, our reputation will also be affected, so we have to be careful. Seeing the MC so worried, Adrian promised he would definitely shatter the prejudices against mages. Reassured, the MC continued to introduce the representative for the Knights, Count Phillips, a young aura master, and the pride of the Lucia kingdom, who stepped out from the wings looking incredibly cool. Adrian suddenly noticed that he looked a bit familiar. When asked why he wanted to join today's episode, Phillips said he wanted to experience the feeling of facing off against Adrian. I once heard the Duchess of Riverdale praise your outstanding talent, but now that I've met Marquis Lauren in person, I think she might be playing favorites with her protege. Today I will show the Marquis that reality is not at all like her imagination, Phillips declared arrogantly. Adrian finally realized he looked just like Cedric. No wonder my first impression of him wasn't good. Even his behavior is just as ugly. After Felix's declaration of war, Adrian simply and gently pushed up his glasses and replied, "You say you're Count Otwell Felix, huh? I don't know who you are. This is the first time I've heard that name. So a guy as interesting as you turned out to be an aura master, huh?" Getting poked at by Adrian really made Felix lose his cool. We've barely started the show and the atmosphere is already tenser than a guitar string. The MC quickly wiped his sweat and led both of them to the testing grounds for their showdown. The arena was located on a beautiful island in the middle of a lake. The massive arena was situated on the island. The program had specially invited expert analysts and commentators for the match alongside loyal fans who had won the 10-year anniversary event. First of all, wouldn't it be more interesting if we didn't use our equipment? Knights use magic gear while mages fight empty-handed. I'll just say I don't care. If the Marquis wants, I can use standard gear too. Felix, decked out in high-end gear, raised his head and retorted, "No need. Why would I lose to a rookie aura master?" Adrian's constant poking was making Felix unbearably furious. After a 3-second countdown, the match officially began. In a fit of rage, Felix moved like the wind, swinging his sword toward Adrian. But less than a second later, a pathetic defeat. Skip the bot fast forward to the result. The aura master was wiped out miserably right under the muzzle of Adrian Everine's level 6 cannon. Upon request, he used magic to heal Felix. The judges and the MC were shocked that Adrian and Lady Everine, mere vassals, could use holy magic. Deploying angel feathers, that was incredibly surprising. She learned holy magic herself from Archbishop Fred in the Wrenhat Kingdom. The angel feather effect she has is due to that natural talent. Lady Everine will be participating in this year's Saintess competition. As soon as Adrian finished speaking, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Promoting Everine's reputation among the crowd like this seemed to be a complete success. Her perfect appearance, her words and her reactions, the good impression and Everine's gentle voice were perfectly suited to the image of a saintess they had in mind. Even though she was only on screen for a short time, the influence was not small at all. "Eric, you did well." Adrian was satisfied. The crowd was absolutely mesmerized by Everine. Gentle, cute, and possessing extraordinary talent. Although Everine received a lot of admiration and respect, she didn't feel happy. Instead, she felt quite troubled. "From now on, I will follow Adrian's lead and work hard to become a saintess. But can I really achieve something like that? Until recently, I was still working a part-time job at a convenience store," Everine thought with a headache. That day, when she got home, Everine realized that besides her parents, there were quite a few people gathered in the house. It turned out they were none other than her distant, opportunistic relatives. Seeing that Everine was a saintess candidate favored by the Lord, they were desperately trying to clout chase. They acted close, even though they usually treated her like dirt. Her shameless uncle cleared his throat, approached her and smirked, suggesting, "Life has been hard on you all these years, niece. So I came because I want to propose a business deal. This is a business plan that will bring us a lot of profit. You know, if we use the name of the saintess candidate Everine's family business, there is no way this business could ever fail." He said this while handing over an unethical business contract, forcing Adrian to comply. Her parents were extremely worried and adamant that they wouldn't let Everine follow this ridiculous plan. "Aren't we family? Aren't you being a bit too cold to your younger brother?" the shameless uncle said arrogantly. 4 years ago, you dared to hide debt as a deposit and ran away all this time, and now you call my family cold. If you were truly sorry, you should have helped when my family was struggling with that debt. Yet, you dared to run away elsewhere and enjoy your life, Everine's father angrily replied. The uncle still casually sighed and made excuses, saying that while the debt was caused by him, Everine's father was also partially responsible for not checking carefully. He shifted all the blame onto Everine's father, making her so angry she just wanted to grab a broom and sweep his whole family out the door. "Please just leave. I don't want to have anything to do with you people anymore. Let's just go back to the way things were before. Treat it as if the other person never existed," Everine said coldly, making the uncle's family furious. "We are still your parents' siblings. I have always loved you so much." The whole lot of them took turns pressuring Adrian with their words, making her extremely confused. Just at that moment, Adrian appeared like a savior for Everine at the most confusing moment. When they saw Adrian appear, they turned pale with fear and scrambled to kneel in respect. Adrian didn't say a word, just smirked and snapped his fingers, freezing them completely. "Do you know the greatest benefit of being a high-ranking noble? It's that I am allowed to treat trash like you however I please." Every word from Adrian rang in the uncle's ears, leaving him stunned and speechless. Adrian wasn't joking. In a flash, he swung his hand and threw the uncle aside like a pile of garbage. The son shared the same fate, while the wife and daughter were trembling like leaves. They kowtowed frantically at Adrian's feet, begging for their lives, because they had been blinded by greed. "No, that's not the point. How dare you harm my people? You want to declare war on me, right? Arrest them for me." Adrian's voice sounded like a thunderclap, and the air was filled with the screams and resistance of the uncle's family. Everine at this moment was still trembling, looking at Adrian with shimmering, teary eyes. After promising to make the uncle's family pay for the money and labor owed to Everine's family, Adrian also suggested that they move into his castle to live. Everine was both embarrassed and touched by everything Adrian had done for her family. At this very moment, she desperately wanted to be useful to him, even if just a little. It seems that deep inside, Everine has developed complex feelings for Adrian. In the Brigham Empire, the Francis territory, the Duke of Francis, after witnessing what just happened through the system, was extremely worried that Adrian and Everine would disrupt his plan. To turn Everine into his saintess. He quickly called for Gregory. "Go hurry. Turn Evelyn into his saintess. Go call Gregory now." Dealing with them cleanly. While working, Adrian received a message from Princess Riverdale. "Be careful. Duke Francis is making very suspicious moves in the castle waiting room." Emergency at Lauren March, the Marquise's reserve knights were happily chatting away. Everyone was feeling extremely satisfied with this place, because their lord not only strictly managed their working hours, but also paid attention to their benefits. While they were gossiping, they noticed a knight nicknamed Damien sitting quietly in a corner. He was famous for the legend of crying while eating back in the day, so the others always used that as an excuse to tease him. But strangely, when he lifted his head, his eyes and his aura were no longer the same as before. Cold and eerily terrifying. Knight Fam Anne then approached and whispered some weird things into Damien's ear. That made the other knights increasingly suspicious that these two were imposters in disguise. Just as they were about to draw their swords, Damien used dark magic to wipe their memories, in the blink of an eye. "You're quite confident in your abilities, aren't you?" Famine spoke up. "But look at the results. What does it matter if I do that? Because I can scramble their memories and make it as if what just happened never took place," Damien replied confidently. "Don't forget, our target isn't Marcus Andrian. It's the girl named Everine. We don't need to put ourselves at risk. Before scouting the castle, I had observed Marcus Andrian from afar. We had locked eyes, Famine said, recalling that moment, the moment when his gaze and Andrian's met. Within the depths of Andrian's eyes, a halo seemed to shine, seeing through every truth, making Famine shudder just remembering it. Suddenly, the alarm bell for an intruder rang out loudly, cutting off their conversation. The intruders were professional assassins equipped with daggers. The Marquis and the guards were fighting against them. Just as planned, Famine and Damien took advantage of the chaos and rushed toward the last room in the east building, near the Lord's office where Everine was staying. The two guards saw Famine and Damien appear and were extremely surprised, because they should have been protecting the Lord instead. We heard there weren't enough guards here, so we came to help, Famine lied through his teeth. The security team still firmly refused to let them near Everine and immediately invited them to leave. At this point, the two of them stopped being polite and immediately drew their monoswords, making the guards realize right away that they were assassins. Damien used mind control magic, causing the two guards to collapse. Famine Tao took the opportunity to swing his sword at Everine's neck, but suddenly he was sent flying onto the floor. The person standing up in front of them now wasn't Everine, but Countess Glenn, aka Von Erica. It made the two assassins drop their jaws. Andrian stepped out from behind, smiling arrogantly. He had discovered this since the moment he locked eyes with Famine back then. They were actually on Gregory Hayden and August Knox from the Green Gloom Empire, special members of the Blue Moon. Exposed as rats, Gregory and August had no choice but to initiate Plan B. Behind a veil of dark energy, they returned to their true forms, swearing to turn this place into hell. Oh, I'm sure Andrian and Erica are just so terrified, aren't they? The Blue Moon is a legendary organization with countless mysteries and bloody rumors. To lay the foundation for the Green Gloom Kingdom and the royal family, this organization was forced to turn to the dark side, becoming an evil organization. The Blue Moon was founded even before the Age of Magic. Everyone knows about the Blue Moon, but no one understands it, perhaps due to this mysterious and notorious reputation. Just like the witches on Earth, the Blue Moon often appears as the villain in Ronaldo's fairy tales. I thought it was just a product of imagination, to scare children, but who would have thought that organization actually existed in real life? And on top of that, it's a top-tier duo of master assassins, an aura user, and a high-level spirit summoner too. Andrian thought to himself, the Blue Moon is Duke Francis's hunting dog, huh? Or is the Duchy of Francis being used without even knowing it? You guys are from the Blue Moon. It seems you are just using Francis as a temporary hiding spot. But even if you two are just imposters, why would two special members of the Blue Moon follow Duke Francis? What do you want? I mean, what does the Blue Moon want? Andrian seemed to know everything about them, making Gregory feel uneasy, momentarily suspecting that Andrian was an accomplice of the person behind it all. I'm not your accomplice, but I know you very well, Andrian said, pointing his staff straight at their faces, provoking them to the point where they had to unleash their full power. A blood-red butterfly spirit lunged in front of Andrian and Erica. Although they were a bit surprised by its sheer magnitude, Andrian was too fast and too dangerous, sending the spirit to the afterlife within 5 seconds. I thought you were strong. Turns out you're only this much. Andrian's violent strike, swift as the wind, made the other two lose the slight smiles on their faces. They looked at each other in confusion, not understanding what the heck just flew by. This world is vast. There are many talents out there. Don't think you're special. Andrian huffed. He had only released his aura and a powerful strike to supplement his attack, but it was enough to make them dizzy. Andrian's intense power made them mistake him for a magic swordsman. It didn't stop there. Andrian snapped his fingers, and the ceiling immediately collapsed right where they were standing. Gregory was crushed by rocks on his legs, screaming in agony, like a stuck pig. Blood poured out like a flood. Furious, he tried using his spirit to control Andrian's mind, but even though he exerted his full strength, he couldn't make a single hair on Andrian's head fall out, which left him utterly bewildered. Damn it, can the abilities of a Fate user in Chronicle Online be used in real life? For people like Andrian, those who possess nearly maximum debuff resistance, those attacks were almost useless. If you can't attack the mind, do you lose all ability to fight? Being asked that by Andrian made both of them jump, because it was the truth. They had been discovered completely by Andrian. Andrian wasn't just a genius mage and the final student of Duke Riverdale, but even more than that. They were now so scared that they couldn't even hold their swords. Their hands trembling, they dropped their blades to the ground with a clang. Andrian had only tricked them a little bit, but it worked better than expected. They had now fallen into a state of fear and lost all will to fight. Andrian suddenly used healing magic on them. He wasn't planning on fighting. He just wanted them to help him pass a message to their Blue Moon leader. They gratefully bowed their heads and scurried away like ducks. He told the pair that he wasn't looking for a fight. He just wanted them to help relay a message to their Blue Moon leader. They bowed in gratitude and scurried off as fast as their legs could carry them, just like that time flew by in the magic era. On November 25th, 2019, the Holy Land of Everhill made an announcement. Broadcasting to the entire world, they publicly revealed details about the competition to select the 2 leaders for the church, which would take place over 1 month, even though they hadn't received a response from Blue Moon yet. But finally, the competition to select the Saintess truly began at Everhill. The residents were in awe as they watched Adrian and Everine march through the opening ceremony. The royal high priests also appeared to conduct the ceremony amidst the excitement of the crowd. After selecting 11 candidates for the position of Saint and 15 candidates for the position of Saintess, the competition was expected to last about a month. Everything that happened during the competition would be transparently publicized and broadcast online. The theme for the first round of the competition would focus on monster taming tactics. Each group would have 5 members, and the group must include 2 swordsmen, using aura, and 2 mages level 3 or lower. Furthermore, I would like to announce that all abilities of the Saintess candidates other than Holy Power will be sealed. So then, I hope everyone enjoys the celebration. On the first day of the competition, Adrian and Everine stepped forward to respectfully bow and pay their respects to the Pope the Saint and the Saintess, the 3 leaders of the Holy Land of Everhill, who stand above all believers across the world. Of course, the one Everine had to pay the most attention to among the 3 was the incumbent Saintess, Sarah Sylvester. Adrian thought to himself. Sarah Sylvester is an incredibly talented Saintess. She maintains a youthful appearance thanks to the blessings of God. In other words, although she looks the same age as Adrian, she is actually a grandmother who probably got married about 40 years ago and already has grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Adrian quickly introduced Everine to Sarun, hoping she could look after her. Sarun stared at Everine, then blurted out, "Marquis Loren has certainly chosen a suitable candidate." Adrian chuckled to himself. Everything was going exactly as he had predicted since Sarun had recognized Everine's value right away after that impressive introduction. Suddenly, Adrian unexpectedly ran into Duke Francis right there. In a flash, he flipped on his polite and cheerful persona and approached him, ignoring Francis's icy glare. "We have received a gift from you, a very large gift. I heard that an accident happened in your territory, and your floating castle suddenly fell and the industrial zone was blown away." Francis blankly remembered the words of the 2 bastards who had suddenly announced their retirement while fleeing from the pursuit regarding Adrian, being a monster not to be trifled with. Was he the reason those 2 ran off? Francis mused, annoyed at being taunted by Adrian about the floating castle that suddenly crashed. Francis was purple with rage, unable to utter a word. Adrian then turned to greet Evelyn, Francis's daughter. The arrogant air of this father and daughter was exactly the same. Feeling a bit mischievous, Adrian decided to rub salt into the wound once more. "Oh, by the way, do you know that I've decided to meet Gregory and August again? So, you've completely lost contact with them. Since this has nothing to do with you anymore, you don't need to worry about it. You look a bit under the weather, so I suppose I should get going." "See you later," Adrian said then, walked away with a long stride, leaving Francis seething with frustration. Seeing Evelyn feeling awkward under Francis's intense gaze, Adrian quickly encouraged her to keep her head held high, as she was the chosen one among the dozen girls out there. At that moment, the Duchess of Riverdale appeared, gently introducing Judy Esther to Adrian. Adrian took one look and realized that Judy possessed qualities even superior to a saintess, or perhaps One could call her a grand saintess, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration. Strict conditions have been applied to the first round of the competition. Do you see any problems, Saintess? She asked Adrian. No. We should be fine. Fortunately, I have the right personnel. The strategy focused on monster taming doesn't seem difficult for Miss Judy, who has reached the level of a first-class apostle, Adrian replied. Right. What's worse is that the girl can use holy power one level higher than the other candidates. But the problem is the people who will become Judy's teammates are 2 knights, but they have no mages, with any real combat experience. Hearing the Saintess say that, Adrian immediately offered to lend her a few people, which made the Saintess very happy. Haha, we are allies now after all. It feels like only I'm the one receiving the benefits, isn't it? The Saintess laughed and said, Not at all, because just talking like this is already enough to put pressure on the other candidates. Adrian smirked. Suddenly, he had a question about this competition. A magic swordsman will be counted as one person, right? Looking at the list of contestants, the Saintess couldn't help but burst into laughter when she saw Adrian had found a loophole to let a knight use magic. Although she didn't really want to, she still had to give the go-ahead to proceed, because finding a loophole in the rules to exploit is also considered a person's ability. Marquis Loren, you are more interesting than I thought, the Saintess said with a smirk. The theme of the competition. The first round is a monster extermination strategy. The Saints and Saintesses are also registered as mercenaries and lead a group of 4 people, including mages and swordsmen, to kill monsters. Cameras always closely follow each contestant. The progression of the competition is revealed through broadcasts and online in real time. Each candidate is assigned a separate channel, and their viewer rating is shown through the number of supporters they have. Everine, with her beautiful appearance and gentle personality, has become a hot topic, making the guys scramble to hunt monsters as gifts for her. When they started appearing on broadcasts, the knights received a lot of attention from viewers, undue to their appearance, but with their typical rigid personality, they only focused on the mission and executed it perfectly, turning the atmosphere of the broadcast into a documentary. No matter how good-looking they are, if the content is boring, people will certainly feel bored. Therefore, as soon as their rivals went downhill, viewers started to leave. Unlike the channels of the other candidates, Everine's channel contains entertaining and developmental elements, like a youth drama, which started to attract a lot of interest. Moreover, the Saint and Saintess candidates from high-ranking noble families became villains, and public opinion increasingly weighed on Everine. The mercenaries felt that only Everine didn't look down on them, as she treated everyone equally. Therefore, they loved her dearly and wanted her to become the Saintess. They also took turns helping Everine. We've taken care of all the monsters, so just have them pile the carcasses up in one spot. Please accept our help. We're doing this to lay the groundwork, especially since you're Everlyn, the one we're supporting. If she becomes a saint, our image will improve too. The mercenaries were delighted, happily chanting Everlyn's name in unison. She blushed, shy and flustered, but promised to do her very best. The tense atmosphere of the monster hunt had transformed into a vibrant, youthful scene. Everlyn's channel viewership was officially ranked number 1. Even the Pope was a fan of hers. Today, Adrian had an appointment with the Pope to ask for help in finding a craftsman for a piece of ancient artifact, an orichalcum item that had a flow of divine power running through it. The moment the Pope saw the artifact, his eyes lit up like floodlights. He wanted to find a way to profit from Everlyn, but Adrian wouldn't let him play it that way. There is a flow inside it, he noted. Divine magic that seems to date back to the age of myths. Only a portion of it was destroyed. The rest is still completely pristine. The Pope inspected the artifact while speaking. He promised to find a skilled craftsman to help Adrian. If we consider this publicity for Lady Everlyn, a donation is the best choice. But if this item is truly an artifact from the age of myths, and it still functions normally, then donating it just for publicity is excessive. Even without donating it, there are still plenty of other ways to promote her, the Pope said. Adrian wasn't actually kind enough to think of the donation plan. But if Everlyn was to become a saint, then many people were putting in the effort. He had to make sure their hard work wasn't going to waste. Adrian mused happily to himself. That evening, Everlyn watched the clips of her recent rise to fame. but she felt a burning sensation of jealousy. A few days ago, Archbishop Fred had introduced Adrian to one of the world's top 3 divine artifact creators, Kobe Ventry. One look and the man could already tell the high quality of Adrian's cloak. It seemed he really had found a master craftsman. Adrian quickly took out the sword hilt to show Kobe. "I want to use this, but can I use mithril for this blade?" Since orichalcum was so hard to come by, Adrian asked curiously. "It doesn't need a blade," Kobe replied, seeing Adrian's confused look, "because it is a finished product in itself. A holy sword of exorcism, a sword that cuts through darkness. It has many names, but the most famous one is the Holy Sword," Kobe said, leaving Adrian completely stunned. Although they come in many forms and functions, surprisingly, not many items can be considered holy swords. Currently, there are only 3 holy swords in the possession of the church. I heard there are 6 holy swords in the world. This must be the 7th. When this sword is in its complete state, a blade made of holy light will be formed from this holy bloodstone. It is on an entirely different level from the legendary magic swords of the past. According to documents I've read, the blade of this holy sword can be compared to an aura blade, and it is effective at fighting demons. Furthermore, this item is versatile in that it can convert any type of energy into a blade, whether it's magic or a divine power or elemental strength. If I hadn't, Tora had the opportunity to see documents related to holy relics, thanks to the grace of my predecessor, even I probably would have overlooked it and missed it. It's highly likely that even your 3 subordinates don't know what it's used for, so I can understand why to an ordinary person this just looks like a lump of common orichalcum, Kobe said, making Adrian break out in a cold sweat. He didn't know why such a supreme item was in the hands of a rural viscount. Seeing Adrian ask about the price, Kobe sighed and explained that it was impossible to put a value on such a thing. Adrian was internally overjoyed, but kept a calm facade on the outside, asking Kobe to repair it for him. From the system, Adrian transferred a large sum of money to Kobe. This was to cover labor and material costs, along with the promise that if Kobe succeeded, "I'll give you double the amount." "Well, I can't refuse that, can I? Since the value of the item was so high. Give me a week. I will do my absolute best to fix it for the sake of my reputation as an engineer," Kobe said confidently. Adrian walked out of the room, still feeling lightheaded. If he could create a blade with power equivalent to an aura blade, could he just step up and play the role of a magic swordsman? Or could he even combine it with a magic staff and use it as a spear? While Adrian was buzzing with these thoughts, he was startled when his communicator went off. Erica called to tell him some sad news: Evelyn had been kidnapped. Upon hearing this, Adrian was struck dumb, his face turning pale, unable to speak. At the dragon's territory and the Crescent Empire, a fierce blast of rage was burning, but it couldn't touch Evelyn, who was floating in the air. Needless to say, the perpetrators were furious. They thought she would be an easy target, but that wasn't the case at all. Suddenly, someone from behind them suggested, "Use a mental attack," which made them jump and spin around. Unexpectedly, standing right in front of them was August with his signature smug smile. With his classic spirit magic, August had the bastards knocked out cold by the time Adrian's group arrived. Hayden and August had already finished dealing with the kidnappers. Evelyn was currently resting in a cabin. Thanks to Adrian's thorough preparation from the start, she was safe and sound. "We have identified the person pulling the strings," they said. "It seems they used a decoy to hire those 2, Hayden said, and that was when Andrew started to grow suspicious. Why were Hayden and August suddenly being so helpful to him? "Actually, this is also where we live. Our leader had orders. It seemed Lady Evelyn was in danger, so we were ordered to come save her and make up for what happened back then. This is the first time I've seen the leader so angry. Our leader said Duke Francis is no longer of any value and ordered us to relocate our base. In other words, what happened between us has nothing to do with my leader. At Blue Moon, the leader doesn't interfere much with our business, except for orders that are truly necessary. We are almost guaranteed autonomy in our actions, but ever since the attempted assassination of Lady Evelyn last time, a directive was issued to the entire Blue Moon: do not harm anyone related to Marquise Lorraine and Count Glenn, Hayden said. The more Adrian heard about them, the stranger the whole situation became. It seemed the leader of Blue Moon was being far too cautious with him. Basically, Adrian thanked them for saving Evelyn and promised to forget the unpleasantness of their previous fight, even though he really meant it. That ambush hadn't really threatened their leader, who welcomed Adrian and explained they were there to pass on a message once the situation had been resolved. Adrian was welcome to stop by any time. Andrea was a bit suspicious if this was a trap to lure him in, but it didn't seem like it. This was the code and the terminal device they used at Blue Moon. It's connected to my device and August's, so don't hesitate to call us whenever you need to. Hayden handed the item to Adrian, and along with August, vanished like the wind. Adrian realized that the most important thing right now was keeping Everine safe. The kidnapping during the live broadcast was causing global chaos. Not only did they accept his proposal, but the Blue Moon leader personally ordered all members not to mess with him. What on earth is going on here? Adrian loosened his collar, a smirk playing on his lips, thinking the Holy Sword must be furious with him for daring to break the competition rules by using the necklace. Adrian defended himself. I didn't have any other choice. If I hadn't used it, Everine might have lost her life. That's all there is to it. If the church could have managed that area better, a situation like this wouldn't have happened. A saintess kidnapped by a stranger who broke into the competition. And the church couldn't find her until I got involved. Whatever the case, please consider Lady Everine's potential. She's just a victim. You can't disqualify her just because of an unforeseen event. I'm at fault for breaking the rules. I think I should be the only one to face the punishment. Adrian tried to explain while worrying if this would leave a bad impression on the saintess. The saintess smirked, finding Adrian quite interesting. Honestly, due to some lingering doubts, I still thought you might have made this up, and I've also confirmed that you weren't lying. The saintess said, then took a mirror from her person and held it out in front of Adrian. At the palace, the saintess had summoned everyone to reveal the truth about the kidnapping incident that occurred yesterday. This is the mirror of truth, a holy relic, capable of reflecting the truth unlike what everyone might think. After using the mirror, I confirmed the kidnapping was not staged by Evelyn and Adrian. First, I want everyone to step toward the mirror one by one to prove you aren't the one behind this. As the saintess requested, Duke Francis, with a guilty conscience, shouted angrily, claiming the saintess was abusing her power. Well, Duke Francis, standing in front of the mirror, shouldn't be difficult unless you're feeling guilty. The saintess replied coldly, making Duke Francis seethe with rage. Just then, the atmosphere suddenly became rowdy due to the appearance of Adrian and the Holy Knights. The person who dared to harm Lady Evelyn could be a dangerous foe, so I've come here to help everyone. Now, everyone please step up one by one, Adrian suggested. After a brief commotion, Saintess Grey High Elven and the Queen of the Kingdom of Alvin and Claudia of Alvin stepped up first. After everyone took an oath that they didn't harm Evelyn. The mirror proved they were all innocent. Just like that, one by one, they stepped up. Finally, only a few people were left, including Duke Francis and his daughter, Evelyn. Unexpectedly, they were both innocent, which left Adrian slightly disappointed. Francis and Adrian bickered for a while in the cathedral, giving the saintess a headache. Only 2 people remained Prime Minister Chinos of the Republic of Prius and Saintess Malaus, who were in a state of panic and fear. They desperately argued that they didn't do it. Everything was just a misunderstanding, but the saintess couldn't be persuaded. Finally, she had to play hardball, declaring them both arrested for the attempted kidnapping of the Saintess Everine Barnett. The guards quickly rushed in to take them away. Screams echoed throughout the cathedral. Duke Francis was extremely smug at the sight. Daring to plot against the saintess in the church was truly blasphemous. Because these two were representatives of the Republic of Prius, it would surely cause a stir for their country, both domestically and internationally. This was very beneficial for the Green Gloom Empire, a country currently at war with Prius, but it was also a good opportunity for the Revolutionary Army, so it was hard to say. Adrian thought that the kidnapping of Saintess Everine had caused him a lot of trouble, even for those participating or following the event. Unlike the happy ending expected, this would change the competition quite a bit. Among the remaining contestants, 5 contestants ranked. First judged to be very talented Saintesses Grey High Elven Everine Esther Evelyn, and also the Princess of the Kingdom of Rebecca Celine. After eliminating the contestants from Prius, they began to support Celine under the banner of supporting Cheaton's candidate. The four-nation competition unintentionally became a five-nation one. From the perspective of the Republic of Prius government, where there were many internal and external problems, they needed someone who could help them shift the focus in people's perspective. However, the country's collapse was just a matter of time, whether from foreign invaders or the Revolutionary War. In the end, Princess Celine wouldn't be able to stand firm either, so there was no need to worry too much. Adrian told himself, then proceeded to the next step with Erica. After the incident, Everine received more attention and became more famous. Adrian also launched a product he researched himself, Cavalry 1.0. There were no issues within the Matap territory. It was running well. Adrian didn't need to worry about Everine much anymore. Just when Adrian thought he could rest for a while, Joseph Vason, the leader of the Blue Moon Guild, came to find him. Andrea and Joseph chatted happily and joyfully, while Erica sat and ate from the beginning to the end of the session. Andrea felt extremely strange when he saw the information displayed on Joseph's system, clearly stating that he liked him very much and wanted to have an alliance, even though they hadn't met for long. I suspect the information displayed on the screen isn't everything about him, Andrea skeptically thought. Roger sat for a while then, gently waved his hand to chase both August and Hayden out of the room. No one is eavesdropping anymore, so speak frankly with me. What is your true identity? Adrian asked. Joseph heard this and suddenly jumped up his state, changing to a suspicious, anxious one. Erica vigilantly lunged to block him in front of Adrian, but unexpectedly, Joseph not only didn't attack, but knelt down in front of Adrian, which startled Adrian. After a while, Adrian learned that Joseph was connected to Grand Duke Lucas. Grand Duke Lucas is the former master of the Blue Moon Guild. I knew this meeting wasn't just simple. It's to establish a mutually beneficial relationship. Could you explain the details of this? Adrian asked, and Roger immediately agreed, pulling out a high-performance terminal. An image of Chester appeared, and Adrian's jaw dropped at his explanation. The Blue Moon Guild was supposed to be part of a destined quest. It was clearly an 8th-level reward, but Adrian had unexpectedly made contact 5 years ahead of schedule. When he pushed for the final route to claim his destiny, many other quests got postponed. Blue Moon was one of them. The long-dormant Blue Moon Guild had awakened and begun external operations to expand their influence, which is how the organization stabilized to where it is now. But as a result, Adrian contacted them earlier than intended. A bug appeared because he chose this path to save time. This man, Joseph Vason, is Chester's assistant, and also the manager of Blue Moon. Damn, if Blue Moon is the reward for reaching level 8. Wouldn't approaching them now be completely pointless? If that's the case, why didn't he just tell me that straight up in the game? Why did he have to make me come all the way here just for that? Adrian thought, feeling annoyed. Chester then stated that he still couldn't officially acknowledge Adrian as the master of Blue Moon, but he wouldn't stop him from establishing a partnership. Hearing this, Adrian beamed with a wide ear-to-ear grin, so excited he was speechless. Chester added more information. Blue Moon has 8 special members, including Aura Masters and Archmages, plus 1,200 high-ranking armored knight assassins with reinforced daggers, 450 vanguards, and 5 aerial fortresses. Not only that, they operate luxury resorts and hotels all over the world, as well as clubs and casinos from A to Z, along with countless businesses ranging from real estate and entertainment to trade and shipping. The Pacific Hotel, where Adrian is currently staying, also belongs to the Blue Moon Guild's assets. The more Adrian heard, the more thrilled he became, practically drooling. He laughed brightly, like a kid on New Year's. The economic potential of their private enterprises is valued at around 100 billion, and their military strength also surpasses a bunch of other dukes. Right now, even though it's just an alliance and all of that isn't entirely his yet, he felt reassured enough. As the first round of the Saintess contest was coming to an end, Kobe Senji, the master engineer of the Holy Land, arrived at the penthouse hotel where Adrian was staying. He had successfully repaired the hilt of the sword and handed it to Adrian. Following Kobe's instructions, Adrian just needed to pour any type of energy into it, like Aura Mana or Holy Power. Adrian tried it, and a blade instantly materialized. It was reflective sharp enough to cut through anything and incredibly cool. The sword was so badass that Adrian accidentally stabbed himself in the chest. Holy crap. Eureka had to pour healing potion into him so he could come back to his senses. That was truly insane. The people around him were shaken to the core by Adrian's self-inflicted mishap. As a person from Earth, Adrian decided to name the sword Excalibur. Thinking back, it isn't an ordinary sword, but it doesn't operate much differently from a regular sword. Moreover, it has the ability to manifest a blade using his own mana. Thank you, Viscount Magus. I've received a wonderful weapon thanks to you. Now, I need to find a way to make the most of it in the contest to help Everlyn. Adrian lay sprawled on the floor in pure bliss, thinking about how the first round of the Saintess contest, which lasted a month, had finally ended. The mercenaries were sobbing their eyes out as they had to bid Everlyn farewell. The sight left Adrian speechless. Ray High Alvin ranked first in mercenary tactics, third in viewer ratings, and second overall. Judy Esther ranked fourth in mercenary tactics, second in viewer ratings, and second overall. Celine ranked fifth in mercenary tactics, fourth in viewer ratings, and fourth overall. Evelyn Francis ranked fourth in mercenary tactics, fifth in viewer ratings, and fifth overall. Evelyn had tried her best to perform well and ranked second in mercenary tactics, first in viewer ratings, and first overall. Beyond the other candidates, I really thought Princess Celine was just a lucky candidate backed by the Prius Republic. But in the end, she even managed to defeat Miss Francis and climb to fourth place. She really is the dark horse I never expected. Adrian thought anxiously. Evelyn was overjoyed when Adrian presented her with flowers of congratulations. She hoped that she could live up to his expectations. The goal of the Saintess contest is to choose the candidate selected by God. God, who is watching the contest, will always choose the person most compatible with his personality among those at the top of this contest. If the contest keeps going like this, Evelyn will become one of the 5 chosen as a Saintess. Just as he planned to head back, a servant approached him with formal decorum. 2 candidates, including Celine, wanted to meet Adrian. Celine, dressed in the traditional attire of the Rebecto Kingdom, bowed respectfully to greet Adrian and Eureka. Even though it was their first time meeting in private, she was truly clever, and he liked her personality. Along with Everlyn and Esther, Princess Celine is one of the candidates who doesn't hesitate to use magic on others. Even though she's from the royal family, her impartial attitude is hard to read. Anyway, it's lucky that the dark horse I was worried about took the initiative to find me, Adrian thought to himself. Celine introduced Adrian to the sponsor, who requested this meeting, Garcia Valen, chairman of the State Council of the Prius Republic. What the fuck, Adrian didn't want to meet that guy at all. The chairman of the State Council is one of the 3 leaders of the Prius Republic. There are many things about that republic that made Adrian feel quite reluctant to meet them. Adrian shook hands and greeted Garcia cheerfully, but inside he wasn't happy at all. After the pleasantries, Garcia opened the door and invited Adrian inside for a meal. A table full of all kinds of food made Adrian's eyes go wide. There was steamed fish, various rolls, pickled vegetable soup, and even braised ribs. Adrian just kept stuffing his face, feeling that the attire and food of the Rebecto Kingdom were incredibly similar to his home in Korea. Engrossed in eating, Adrian forgot that there was someone else in front of him. Celine giggled, making Adrian blush with embarrassment. Seeing that he had finished eating, Garcia started getting to the point. He let it be known that his republic had recently been having trouble with the activities of a rebel group calling themselves the Revolutionary Army. These rebels were even manufacturing their own equipment. Their Vanguard's gear looks an awful lot like the new version 1.0 Gladiator Core that Matap Lauren is producing. That means Matap Adrian's Vanguard gear is likely involved in some shady dealings. Well, I kind of saw that coming. There's no way they're skilled enough to decrypt my password core. Should I just play dumb? Adrian mused while sipping his tea. He quickly brushed off the suggestion that the Revolutionary Army's Vanguard gear was on par with the Magic Towers. I didn't request this meeting because I doubt you, but isn't that enough evidence to charge them that they stole Marquis Loren's technology? Garcia pressed aggressively. Adrian finally caught on. Garcia wanted him to prosecute the group, calling themselves the Republic's Revolutionary Army, for stealing his tech. Talk about throwing stones and hiding your hands. Garcia wants to destroy the public's trust in the Revolutionary Army. We will pay a fair price. In the name of the Republic's military, we will purchase 1,000 sets of Vanguard gear from Matap Lauren at a 10% markup. Garcia laughed heartily. That's certainly a tempting offer. Adrian smirked and turned to Celine, asking if he should accept the proposal. Celine hesitated for a moment before blurting out, I don't think this is a matter I should be involved in, but as a representative of a nation, I will stand with the Republic's government. Her closing statement was quite clever. It highlighted her position as a national representative and her loyalty to the Republic, all while avoiding any personal opinion until the very end. That was the best choice for a princess receiving support from the Republic of Prius. It was a bit sad, but it strangely made me nostalgic. Back in my past life, I always had to keep a close eye on the powerful nations around me. But I do like her. Adrian sighed to himself. And so despite Garcia's expectations, Adrian flatly turned down the offer. Garcia looked like he had been struck by lightning. His face turned bright red with rage as he stood up, slamming the table and chair. He demanded an explanation from Adrian. It seems you've misunderstood. We are on the Deferon continent. Right now, the Bringgloom Empire and the Republic of Prius are at war. Why, would you think I would do something that causes the Bringgloom Empire to lose my roots or in the Bringgloom Empire, which is on the same continent as me? I have absolutely no reason, Han, to get involved in the problems of the Republic of Prius and put the Bringgloom Empire at a disadvantage. Isn't that just a matter between your two countries? In the long run, picking the wrong side leads to bigger losses. And shouldn't the government be the one to solve its own internal problems